Chapter 1260. The Vengeful Her. How could she let off Zi Qianqian, who destroyed the glower flame fan so easily? But at that time, Yiqing Luo did not take any extreme actions. She even allowed Zi Qianqian to be carried away by the doctor in the medical hall to receive treatment. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her gaze. Her eyes squinted, revealing a strong murderous intent. That is the competition venue. If I kill her on the spot, not only will I implicate myself, but also the entire devil class and the World Mercenary Group. The current devil class and the World Mercenary Group, although their reputations had spread far and wide. Speaking of which, she was the only one who was able to intimidate everyone with her strength. Once she dismembered Zi Qianqian on the spot, not only the Zi family would not let her off, even the academy would not be able to account for it. Devil class's students needed a place like the academy to learn and grow. She could not implicate the devil class and implicate everyone for her own selfish desires. She could not take revenge on the spot, but she would use her own methods to let Zi Qianqian live. More painful than death. What Zi Qianqian was proud of was just her title as a student in the class of gods, was just her reputation as the #1 beauty, was just her Skymas staff's power. Then, she would destroy what Zi Qianqian was proud of bit by bit. This match, Zi Qianqian's loss, was just the beginning. She would make Zi Qianqian become the joke of the entire West continent, and even the entire Nirvana realm. Yiqing Luo's gaze gradually fell onto the broken glower flame fan. Her slender fingers gently caressed the fan handle as her brows turned soft. Moreover, the glower flame fan did not hesitate to sacrifice itself in order to protect my victory. I don't want the glower flame fan to sacrifice itself in vain. Yes, in order to protect you, the glower flame fan sacrificed itself. Dmo Xian's warm palm had already floated onto her hair. His large palm fixed the back of her head. He said in a low voice, "So all the more for the glower flame fan, at least don't let yourself fall." Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in a daze, looking at Dmo Xian's peerless face. That pair of glistening, gentle peach blossom eyes seemed to sink into the heart of a warm current. Furthermore, Dmo Xian dragged out the last syllable. His long and narrow eyes outlined a demonic curve. Who told you that once the glower flame fan is broken, it is completely broken? In Yiqing Luo's mind, there seemed to be a white light that suddenly exploded. Her charming eyes lit up as she speedily grabbed Dmo Xian's wrist. What did you just say? The devouring flame fan was broken, but was it not completely broken? In other words, Dmo Xian had a way to restore the glower flame fan? Before I answer your question, you have to answer mine seriously first. Dmo Xian's eyes gleamed slightly. His 5 fingers suddenly exerted strength and pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. Her face was pressed against his chest. The scorching heat also scalded her face. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched tightly onto the lapel in front of his chest as she replied anxiously, "Ask, I will answer seriously." Dmo Xian's attitude meant that he definitely had a way to reconstruct the glower flame fan. Why do you care so much about the ghastly flame fan?" A low and hoarse voice, like mellow wine, lingered beside his eardrums. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt her whole body go limp. Her little hand instinctively clutched his lapel even tighter. Dmo Xian's voice was even lower. The slightly raised ending syllable once again made Yiqing Luo's body go limp. Chapter 1261. Just because of this. Dmo Xian raised his eyebrows as he teased. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she loosened her grip on his clothes. She understood the meaning behind Dmo Xian's question. Her face flushed red instantly. If you don't answer seriously, you won't get the answer to the question you want to know. Dmo Xian gave a low laugh. This girl was so adorable that he couldn't wait to rub her into his body. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his arms and dawdled for a long time. After a long time, she muttered in a low voice. She couldn't understand what she was talking about. Dmo Xian didn't intend to let her fool him. His slender fingers lifted Yiqing Luo's chin in a domineering and overbearing manner. Under the reflection of her pupils, her rosy red lips curled into a devilish smile. "I can't hear you." A low husky magnetic male voice knocked into her eardrum. The warm breath fell on her skin, and made her feel ticklish. Yiqing Luo blushed furiously as she stared at Di Emotian angrily. She exerted force and sat on Di Emotian's body, her little hand propped on his chest as she put on a fierce look like a queen and said fiendishly, "The glower flame fan is the gift you gave me. You said it was a betrothal gift." After that, she stared at the man's rising arc and gritted her teeth as she lowered her head and bit hard on his lips, growling angrily, "Are you satisfied now?" Hiss. Di Emotian was in pain as he held her slender waist tightly with one hand and stroked his lips which were bitten. He couldn't help but chuckle. "Little wild cat." Yiqing Luo snorted coldly. "You deserve to be bitten to death. What a shameless beast." Flirting with her at the slightest disagreement. And it was the kind of flirting that made her blush. Biting him was already considered as her mouth being merciful. Di Emotian saw her blushing face and knew that if he continued to tease her, the little wild cat would explode. He restrained his teasing thoughts and said gently, "Satisfied, satisfied. Little wild cat makes me so satisfied, so I decided to tell you the method to restore the glower flame fan." When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression immediately turned serious as she looked at him solemnly, waiting for his answer. Di Emotian held her little hand, brought it to his lips and gently kissed it, whispering, "Do you still remember the attributes of the glower flame fan?" Attributes? Yiqing Luo recalled everything in her mind. It seemed like, when Di Emotian gave her the glower flame fan, Old Man Song had said, "The ghastly flame fan is an attribute that can grow." There was only one ghastly flame fan in the world, and it was not as precious as the Tianling staff. It was not a legendary weapon. However, what made people envious was the glowing flame fan's ability to grow. The glowing flame fan could be upgraded according to the user's abilities. Growth attribute. What does it have to do with repairing the broken glower flame fan? Yiqing Luo asked in puzzlement. Di Emotian pinched her forehead lightly. Because it is an attribute that can grow, the breaking of the ghastly flame fan to the ghastly flame fan is not destruction but a new beginning. The more Yiqing Luo listened, the more confused she became. Seeing Yiqing Luo's bewildered look, Di Emotian sighed and changed his way of explaining. "Before the ghastly flame fan broke, although it was used by you, but to the ghastly flame fan, you are not its real owner. The ghastly flame fan can be restored, but I need something from you." Hearing this, Yiqing Luo linked the words before and after, and immediately understood the meaning behind Di Emotian's words. Chapter 1262. To restore the glower flame fan, it required a drop of Yiqing Luo's heartblood and her heartbone. Using these two things as raw materials, the armament master would recast the glower flame fan. It would definitely be able to restore the glower flame fan and make the connection between the glower flame fan and Yiqing Luo stronger. "I will use profound energy to extract the heart blood and heart bone for you." Di Emotian looked at the young lady in front of him, his eyes filled with determination as he gently caressed her cheek. Yiqing Luo nodded. "But, armament master, I don't know any armament master." If it was refining pills, she could still volunteer. But refining armaments? She didn't seem to have heard of anyone among the people she knew who studied weapon forging. Moreover, the glower flame fan could grow, and was second only to the legendary grade weapon. Ordinary armament masters had no way to restore it. At least, the armament master's grade had to reach armament sect and above. Armament masters and alchemists were similar. From low to high, the order was armament slave, armament apprentice, armament master, armament grandmaster, armament sect, armament emperor, armament immortal, armament god. The only difference was, armament sect level armament master was even more difficult than alchemist level alchemist. The success rate of armament refining was even more difficult than alchemist level. Even if Yiqing Luo knew some armament masters, but there was absolutely no one who could reach armament sect level. The Imperial Palace has won. Since Di Emotian said this method, naturally he knew some armament sect armament masters. He cupped Yiqing Luo's face with both hands as he closed the distance between them. But he paused for a moment, and then said with a somewhat cautious tone, "The equipment forger was a woman." Yi Qing Luo's joyous expression instantly froze on her lips. Lady, why were there so many ladies in the imperial palace? She frowned slightly as an inexplicable feeling of resistance arose in her heart. An image of Feng Ling holding onto Dmo Xian's arm appeared in her mind, occupying her position. Suddenly it flashed, and the scene of Dmo Xian and Feng Ling getting married appeared in the illusion. Her hands, which were placed on Dmo Xian's shoulders, suddenly pinched hard as she snorted. Don't look for her. Isn't it just a armament sect level armament master? We can slowly look for her. She's not the only armament sect level armament master in this world. But, is there a but? Yi Qing Luo's eyes opened wide. She hadn't forgotten that the reason why Dmo Xian called Feng Ling over from the imperial palace was to break the enchantment which the dark forces had conjured. Now, because of the restoration of the glower flame fan, if there was a second wind chime, she would not be able to control herself and strangle Dmo Xian to death. Dmo Xian's gaze passed over her shoulder and fixed on a certain spot. But she's already here. Yi Qing Luo froze. Loosening her grip on Dmo Xian's clothes, she followed his line of sight and looked behind her. Sure enough, a woman in a light blue dress with long sleeves drifting in the wind slowly walked over with a faint smile on her face. Standing in front of the both of them, the woman knelt down on one knee and paid her respects to Dmo Xian. This subordinate pays her respects to Sir Overlord. She paused, and a teasing look flashed across her eyes. Greetings, mistress of the imperial palace. And mistress? Yi Qing Luo held her breath as she turned her head to look at Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian caressed her hair and waved his hand. Beiyuan, get up first. The woman stood up and walked to the seat opposite Dmo Xian as she sat down. A pair of crafty and teasing eyes sized Yi Qing Luo up from head to toe. The relationship between Sir Overlord and mistress of the imperial palace is really good. But let's settle the proper business first. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her cheeks flushed red instantly. Chapter 1263. In this era, this kind of posture could be considered as immoral. Even between husband and wife, they didn't dare to do such an action in such a noisy place like the restaurant. Yi Qing Luo's only thought now was to dig a hole in the ground and disappear in front of these two people's eyes. In front of Dmo Xian's subordinates, she sat on Dmo Xian's thighs and even pestered him to be jealous. How would she have the face to meet the other people in the imperial palace in future? Yi Qing Luo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. It was all that crazy beast's fault. When he flirted with her, he didn't even tell her in advance that there would be other people coming. Yi Qing Luo raised her fist and wanted to punch Dmo Xian. But when he remembered that there was a beautiful woman looking at the two of them with a smile on her face, he couldn't help it. She suppressed her anger and retracted her hand. She stood up and speedily returned to her seat. Lil Luoer. Ha ha ha. Dmo Xian was tickled by her actions as he laughed out loud. That peerless face, because of that smile, looked even more handsome. Yi Qing Luo was furious as she stared at him fiercely. Shameless beast, just you wait. Now that your subordinate is here, I will give you face. Later your subordinate will leave. I'll peel your skin off in minutes. Dmo Xian raised his brows as his eyes narrowed. All right, I will wait for you. The two of them exchanged flirtatious glances, which made the beautiful lady, sitting by the side, unable to restrain her laughter. She crossed her arms leisurely as she leaned back on the chair, looking at Dmo Xian in ridicule. Noticing the lady's gaze, Yi Qing Luo was really tempted. Damn it. There was probably no chance for her to establish her prestige in the imperial palace in future. The beautiful lady's beautiful eyes were filled with smiles as she looked at Yi Qing Luo's direction and spoke respectfully. I am Tang Beiyuan, the Imperial Palace's armament refining hall master, and also the Overlord's exclusive armament master. Saying that, she raised her brows with some interest. But what the Imperial Palace's mistress is worried about will absolutely not happen. Although I am the Overlord's exclusive armament master, but my life belongs to another man. Yi Qing Luo heard that, and knew that this lady was ridiculing what she said to Dmo Xian earlier. But Yi Qing Luo didn't hear any bit of disgust or displeasure. Tang Beiyuan's teasing was kind, Tang Beiyuan was not as well behaved as wind in front of Dmo Xian. This was enough to prove that Tang Beiyuan and Dmo Xian's relationship was rather harmonious. Tang Beiyuan had just said that her life belonged to another man. This sentence, "You're married?" Such a young and outstanding woman. How could she have gotten married so early? Tang Beiyuan shook her head with a bitter smile. "We're not married yet, but I don't think I'll have to wait too long." She didn't even have the confidence to say the last word maybe. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. It was obvious that Tang Beiyuan was genuinely in love with her fiancé. As for the reason why they didn't get married, Yiqing Luo didn't ask too much. After all, this was only the first time they had met. One thing was certain. Just as Tang Beiyuan had said, what she was worried about would never happen. "I'm sorry." Yiqing Luo opened her mouth gently, apologizing for her action of assuming that Tang Beiyuan was the second Feng Ling, before they had even met. Chapter 1264. Subdue. Tang Beiyuan's choice of words seemed a little. "This is the first time I've seen such an overlord." Tang Beiyuan propped her chin as her beautiful eyes stared at Dmo Xian's face. "The current overlord finally looks like a human." Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Dmo Xian. "Looks like a human? What kind of evaluation was that? Could it be Dmo Xian didn't look like a human in the past?" Yiqing Luo recalled her past self, living like a machine that exhausted all its energy for the secluded Yi family. She didn't look like a human at that time. Could it be that Dmo Xian was the same as her in the past? Yiqing Luo felt like laughing as she imagined the past Dmo Xian. "Beiyuan." Dmo Xian berated Tang Beiyuan's name, but his tone didn't have any signs of majesty. He looked at Yiqing Luo, who was still laughing, as one hand slid under the table towards Yiqing Luo's direction. His slender fingers silently covered Yiqing Luo's legs. "Ah!" Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened as a short cry came out from her mouth. Tang Beiyuan looked at her in puzzlement. "What's the matter?" "No, nothing." Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as she shook her head with a blushing face. His hand actually. Using the table as a cover, his fingers gently and slowly brushed past her legs. From time to time, it brushed past her thighs. For the convenience of the competition, Yiqing Luo had designed the uniform to be extremely tight. The trousers below the skirt were almost stuck to her skin. Dmo Xian's hand swept past her tight trousers, which was equivalent to touching the skin on her legs. That layer of trousers made her feel even more itchy. "Mistress, why is your face so red?" Tang Beiyuan saw that Yiqing Luo didn't seem to be fine, and immediately looked at Dmo Xian. "Overlord, is mistress feeling unwell?" Dmo Xian lifted the teacup elegantly and drank a mouthful of tea. "She's thin-skinned, and is regretting after you saw her fierce look earlier." Tang Beiyuan nodded her head as she retracted her worried gaze. "Mistress, don't worry. I won't tell anyone else in the Imperial Palace about today's matter." Yiqing Luo gave a few dry laughs as her body tensed up. She gave a dry laugh as she turned her head and gave Dmo Xian a warning stare. Where did this beast learn to flirt with girls? Unexpectedly, he actually did such a thing to her under the table. The more she stared, the hand on her thigh became more and more wanton. Furthermore, it faintly brushed past the inside of her Great Moon retreat, causing her to tremble even more violently. What made Yiqing Luo unable to balance was, the Emperor Avian calmly sipped its tea. Yiqing Luo's little face was burning as she saw Dmo Xian ignoring her gaze. She clenched her teeth and simply picked up the teacup as her other hand slid under the table, without anyone noticing, and held onto Dmo Xian's large palm. Just as she touched Dmo Xian's hand, Dmo Xian had already planned this beforehand as he held her wrist in reverse. Yiqing Luo struggled and his grip tightened. Just as Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of humiliation, putting down the teacup, and was about to add her other hand into the battlefield, Dmo Xian timely brought the topic back to business. "Beiyuan, the glower flame fan is here. Take a look and see how confident you are." Saying that, he pushed the glower flame fan, which was broken into two pieces, towards Tang Beiyuan. Yiqing Luo's resistance stopped. At this moment, She had no mood to continue messing around with Dmo Xian. Chapter 1265. Tang Beiyuan fiddled with the broken glowing fan. She glanced at the gap and rolled her eyes. Di Zun, are you questioning my skills? Dmo Xian glanced at the young lady beside him. Tang Beiyuan nodded her head as her fingers caressed the glower flame fan, and smiled at Yiqing Luo. Mistress, I have 100% confidence. 100%. Which meant 100% of the glower flame fan could be restored. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she looked at Dmo Xian in delight. The glower flame fan can be restored. It can be restored. Luckily, the glower flame fan was a growing attribute. There was still room for redemption. His heart, which had been hanging in the air, slowly sank into the bottom of his heart. Her little hand clenched the big palm on her thigh. I'm ready to extract the heart bone and blood anytime. Dmo Xian's fingers caressed her palm as he said warmly. You must be tired from today's competition and exhausted too much energy. Forcefully extracting the heart bone and blood will affect your body. Extract the heart bone and blood, preferably in the wee hours of the morning, the second bell. Tang Beiyuan continued. Wee hours. Yiqing Luo looked at Dmo Xian. Can we do it tonight? Before that, if your body can meet the requirements of extracting the heart bone and blood, yes. Dmo Xian didn't object. Knowing that the glower flame fan could be restored, and with 100% confidence, Yiqing Luo didn't insist any further. Today's competition was too dangerous, and she was indeed tired. After the meal, Tang Beiyuan stayed in the restaurant. As for Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo, they returned to the dormitory. Yiqing Luo needed a good rest. After the interclass competition, there were 2 days of free time. It was said that because of the interclass competition, the students had been tense for a long time and used profound energy on a large scale, so it gave the students time to relax. In fact, these 2 days, it was to let the students report their results back to their elders, or stay at the West Square and get to know the forces from all over the world. If he was lucky, he would be able to decide which faction he would belong to after he graduated from the academy in the next 2 days. The two of them had just arrived at the entrance of the mansion when they saw a group of students dressed in class uniforms surrounding the entrance tightly. Those students were mostly youngsters, but when he looked inside, he saw many girls who were talking at once and laughing joyfully. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 50 to 60 people. Towards this kind of excitement, Yiqing Luo had always had no interest, especially now that her mind was preoccupied with repairing the glowing flame fan. But when she passed by the entrance, Yiqing Luo obviously heard those ladies mentioning her name. Not only that, there were also Supreme Mo's words. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as her slender brows creased slightly, as she looked at those students who were surrounding her. Just as she was about to walk over, her body was forcefully pulled towards the mansion by Dmo Xian. Don't bother about unimportant people. The most important thing now is for you to return to your room and have a good rest. Yiqing Luo staggered a few steps forward as she looked at Dmo Xian in puzzlement. However, she found that his expression was a little ugly, as if he was trying to hold back some emotions. His eagerness to pull her away did not seem to be just to let her rest earlier. Instead, what were those students talking about when they were gathered together? Yiqing Luo turned her head and swept a glance in the direction of the 50 to 60 students. Although she had doubts in her heart, but she tactfully didn't ask too much. Suddenly, a melodious laughter was heard from behind. Brother Supreme Mo, you're finally back. Chapter 1266. A jade green figure forcefully knocked Yiqing Luo away. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention and was knocked back a few steps. She looked up and saw Feng Ling holding Mo Xian's arm tightly. Brother Supreme Mo, Xiaoling has waited for a long time. You're finally back. Yiqing Luo steadied herself, and a trace of coldness surfaced in her eyes. How did Feng Ling know that Mo Xian was Supreme Mo? Why was Feng Ling here? Xiaoling let go. Mo Xian's expression sank as his cold eyes swept past the woman who was holding his arm. The disgust in his eyes was obvious. Feng Ling pursed her red lips. It wasn't that she didn't see the disgust in Mo Xian's eyes, but she still wasn't willing to let go of him. No matter how much Mo Xian hated her, Mo Xian couldn't reject her completely. As long as her grandma was around, she could do whatever she wanted without any scruples. Feng Ling restrained the surging emotions in her heart and hugged Mo Xian's arm tighter. She practically buried Mo Xian's arm right into that proud ravine on her chest. Brother Supreme Mo, don't chase Xiaoling away. Xiaoling will be obedient and won't disturb you. Feng Ling softened her tone and begged for mercy. Shaking Mo Xian's arm, it brushed past her proud place. Mo Xian's expression was overcast, and the fingers on his arm were clenched into a fist. His voice was cold and filled with warning. Let go. Feng Ling was so frightened by the coldness in his eyes that her whole body trembled, and her heart beat in fear. But she still didn't let go of Mo Xian's arm. She licked her red lips, which were dry from nervousness, and simply buried her entire body into Mo Xian's embrace. Just as Feng Ling was about to bury herself in Mo Xian's arms, her arm suddenly felt a tingling pain. Immediately after, his body felt light, as he was fiercely flung away by a strong force. Ah! Feng Ling fell heavily on the ground and let out a scream. Pain! The intense pain spread from her buttocks. Her whole body felt like her bones were broken, and the pain was indescribable. The pain on her body couldn't compare to the pain in her heart. Feng Ling's eyes were red, and her delicate face was pale. He actually pushed her away. Furthermore, he had pushed her away in such a rough manner. Did Brother D hate her that much? Was he so disgusted that he felt annoyed just by looking at her? Little Ling, are you alright? Teacher Mo, she's your fiancée after all. How could you treat her like this? Esteemed Teacher Mo, you are our teacher. You should set a good example. By treating your fiancée like this, are you teaching us how to treat our fiancés in the future? The students who were originally surrounding Feng Ling immediately went forward and helped Feng Ling up while defending her. There were a few students who stared furiously at the expressionless Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side. Yiqing Luo noticed it. The students looked at her, as if they were looking at a vixen. A fiancé? Even using her toes. Yiqing Luo could imagine what Feng Ling and these students were discussing about earlier. It was none other than Feng Ling, was Supreme Mo's fiancé. As for Supreme Mo, because of her a proud student, he treated Feng Ling, his fiancé, coldly. Hence, Feng Ling came here to call back her fiancé's love for herself and so on. Even if it wasn't what Yiqing Luo had imagined, but the content was almost the same. Yiqing Luo only had 2 words to express her current feelings. Chapter 1267. Fiancé. Mo Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes as he repeated the 3 words softly. Feng Ling, who stood up with the help of the students, looked at him anxiously. She bit her red lips lightly, looking as though she wanted to say something but stopped. Mo Xian sneered as his thin lips twitched as he looked at Feng Ling, and repeated the words again. Fiancé him? Mo brother Supreme Mo. Feng Ling sobbed softly as her pair of beautiful eyes and eyelashes were already wet with tears. That pitiful and weak look made one feel pity for her. Don't be afraid, little Ling. Even if he's the elder of the headquarters. If he's so fickle and doesn't acknowledge his fiancée, then we'll report this matter to the headquarters. The one who stood out to speak was a female student from High Profound Class 2. High Profound Class 2 had now become a joke. Under Lu Xuelan's intentional embellishment, all the students were certain that this time they had lost all their face, and were going to be demoted, was all because of Yiqing Luo's sinister and cunning. The female student pulled Feng Ling behind her and pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Master Supreme MO. Touch your own conscience and say, do you treat her as your student or as a woman? With someone taking the lead to speak, the other female students' emotions were also infected. That's right, Master Supreme MO. You already have a fiancé, so you shouldn't be so ambiguous with female students. What's more, student Yiqing Luo and the overlord already have that kind of improper relationship. Student Yiqing Luo, don't you feel guilty for ruining their fiancé relationship? The female students were filled with righteous indignation. There were some female students who could empathize with her and felt that a woman's fate was really miserable as they directly walked up to Yiqing Luo, pointing at her and scolding Vixen. For a moment, the entire entrance of the dormitory was bustling with noise. Dmo Xian's frosty eyes were as sharp as a blade. He lifted his feet and was about to walk towards Yiqing Luo when he was stopped by a gaze from Yiqing Luo. His footsteps paused slightly, and when his gaze met Yiqing Luo, it eased up slightly. Yiqing Luo looked at the two female students and raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you done? The profound energy, which was released invisibly, made the two female students feel pressured. They trembled and took a few steps back, not daring to speak again. Since you're done then, listen to me. Yiqing Luo took a step forward slowly. The two female students retreated in fear. One of them felt her legs wobbling, and when Yiqing Luo got closer, she collapsed onto the ground as she grabbed onto another female student's trousers tightly. The female student raised her leg in fear and kicked the student who had fallen to the ground away. She hurriedly rushed towards the crowd. Yiqing Luo stood firmly next to that female student as she bent down and looked down at her. Last night, at the entrance of Gentle Village, I saw you dressed up gorgeously with a man. Her voice paused, her thin eyebrows slightly raised, and the corners of her mouth carried a teasing smile. The female student's face instantly turned pale. Ignoring her fear, she shouted angrily, "You're slandering me. I was with my classmates at the mansion last night. How could I go to a place like the Village of Tenderness?" The Land of Tenderness was the green wooden pavilion of the West Billow Square. An unmarried woman in a land of gentleness. If this matter were to be spread out, her reputation would be completely ruined. The female student's explanation didn't gain the trust of the surrounding people. The students were all pointing fingers at her. Chapter 1268. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she looked at that hand which was clutching her tightly. She didn't struggle free, but only raised her eyes as she met that female student's gaze with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then which eye of yours saw me spoiling their fiancé relationship? What rights do you have to spout nonsense and ruin my reputation? The female student's hysterical roar came to an abrupt stop. The sounds of discussion in the surroundings also stopped abruptly. Yiqing Luo raised her hand as her slender fingers held onto that hand, which was on her lapel. One finger, she pried her apart. Anyone can say such slanderous words, and anyone can say it. You just treat it as something which you say casually, but have you ever thought about the serious consequences it will cause to others? Yiqing Luo's voice was very soft, but it carried an irresistible charm. The invisible pressure which was released made everyone's gazes unknowingly revolved around her. Easily listening to someone's words. I don't know if I should laugh at your naivety or at your stupidity. Yiqing Luo shook off the female student's hand as she looked at her condescendingly. How long have you known Feng Ling for? Just act coquettishly, give in and obediently become her tool. The female student's expression changed. All the students' gazes instantly turned towards Feng Ling. The female student who was originally blocking in front of Feng Ling also slowly shifted her body as she turned her head towards Feng Ling. Her eyes filled with suspicion. That's right. How long had they known Feng Ling for? Just based on a few words from Feng Ling, they had already scolded Master Mo. Those few students who had voiced out earlier felt a chill down their spines as they broke out in cold sweat. The gazes which they shot towards Feng Ling became increasingly unfriendly. I didn't. What I said is all true. She did it on purpose. Feng Ling panicked as she stuttered to explain. She had not expected Yiqing Luo to be so quick-witted. Just a few words, and she had made those students who were on her side who were filled with righteous indignation to stand up for her, instantly betray. You. Yi Qing Luo suddenly pointed towards that female student from high profound class 2. The female student's body stiffened as she didn't even dare to breathe loudly. You said that I have an improper relationship with the overlord. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. The smile on her lips was elegant, like a dream or fantasy. However, that pair of charming eyes, which were suffused with rippling light, was so cold that it caused one's entire body to shiver. Let me make a correction. The overlord and I are in a serious relationship. Don't use the word improper on us. All the students sucked in a breath of cold air. Was she openly admitting that she had a close relationship with His Majesty, the overlord? Didn't they say that they were master and disciple? Could it be that they had advanced from master and disciple to that kind of relationship? But Yi Qing Luo didn't give them any time to digest. Instead, he walked straight to wind chimes. His steps were light and slow, but he carried a strong and intimidating aura. Windling was so frightened that she retreated. She instinctively wanted to seek help from the people around her. However, the students who were comforting her gently and standing beside her, just a moment ago, didn't seem to see her pleading eyes. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Her smile was extremely joyous. Those who can be easily persuaded by you can also be easily persuaded by others. She moved closer to Feng Ling's ear and whispered. The human heart was like this. Listening to the wind was the wind, listening to the rain was the rain. But she didn't know how to personally verify whether it was the wind or the rain. Looking at Windling's pale little face, she looked as though she had suffered a huge blow and was extremely frail. Her smile became even more enchanting and radiant as her vision slowly turned towards the man, who was looking at her silently with a doting gaze. Chapter 1269. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, Feng Ling's petite body shuddered. Her gaze was immediately glued to Demo Xian's body. A pair of reddened eyes and her wet eyelashes fluttered incessantly. Just a moment later, the bean-sized tears rolled down from the corner of her eyes. Her pitiful look was obviously begging Demo Xian not to expose her in front of everyone. Feng Ling was very clear. Under Yi Qing Luo's conscious guidance, these students had developed an extreme distrust towards her. If Demo Xian denied that she was his fiancée, that also meant that the story she had fabricated earlier was indeed false. Which meant that she was indeed like what Yi Qing Luo said, making use of everyone's sympathy, using everyone as a tool. How indignant those students were to stand up for her just now. After knowing the truth, how indignant they would be, accusing her of using and lying. These students, they would peel off her skin. Just imagining the consequences in her mind, Feng Ling's body couldn't stop trembling. Demo Xian didn't speak for a long time. Her mood was getting more and more uneasy. Finally, Feng Ling couldn't hold it in any longer, and directly rushed towards Demo Xian's direction. Brother Mo Supreme, quickly answer them. Didn't you promise Grandma that you will do your best to protect little Ling? Feng Ling stretched out her hand, trying to hug Demo Xian's arm. In his words, he deliberately emphasized the word grandma. But the progress in Feng Ling's thoughts were completely in the opposite direction. Her hand had yet to touch Demo Xian. Demo Xian dodged sideways. Feng Ling's hand froze in midair, looked at him incredulously. That face which made her crazy had no emotions at all. That pair of eyes which made her intoxicated was so cold as if it was quenched with ice. He stood there, without any adornment in his master's robe, swaying in the wind, like a banished immortal. His rosy thin lips, bit by bit, curled into an arc which made her sink in. Feng Ling was so frightened that her delicate body trembled, almost crying out loud. From Demo Xian's action of avoiding her, Feng Ling had already guessed his choice. She is not my fiancée. Demo Xian's voice was calm, his expression indifferent. His words were like needles stabbing into wind chimes' eardrums. Her head was throbbing, and she could clearly hear something breaking in her chest. Brother Supreme Mo. Feng Ling miserably called out Demo Xian's name. She could not believe that even if she brought out her grandmother, the man she loved still mercilessly exposed her. Through the corner of her eyes, Feng Ling glanced at the girl, who was standing on the other side, and looking at her provocatively. His cheeks felt like they were on fire. A sense of humiliation arose spontaneously. The person her brother D respected the most was her grandmother. But now, for the sake of one woman and another woman, her big brother D was even willing to disregard his own grandmother. What was so good about Yiqing Luo? What was good about Yiqing Luo? Why did her brother D treat her in this way? Because of Yiqing Luo. The more Feng Ling thought about it, the more unbalanced she felt. His hatred towards Yiqing Luo intensified. Suddenly, a quiet and low voice sounded in his ears. His voice was so soft that only the two of them could hear him. Little Ling, don't waste all the kindness that your grandmother had painstakingly accumulated for you. You know very well that this lord's patience is not good. She is my reverse scale. Just 3 simple sentences, but it seemed as if there were turbulent waves surging in Feng Ling's heart. He was warning her. He wanted to tell her. Chapter 1270. This knowledge made Feng Ling's body sway slightly. Her entire body was weak, and she almost fell onto the ground. A bone-piercing chill extended from her feet to her heart. Her entire body seemed to be wrapped in ice, just because she had tarnished Yiqing Luo's reputation. So, DMO Xian also wanted to tarnish her reputation? Because he was worried that Yiqing Luo would misunderstand. So, DMO Xian avoided her from getting close to him, just to please Yiqing Luo. So, DMO Xian could ignore her grandmother's kindness? Heh. Hee. Windling chuckled softly. The pain of her heart tearing made her wish that she was dead. Miss Feng, Senior Master Mo is an elder of the headquarters. I'm very curious. Who sent you to purposely defame Senior Master Mo? A clear voice sounded from the side. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she gazed at Feng Ling. Or perhaps, you're purely admiring Master Mo, so you're delusional that you're his fiancé? So you intentionally instigated the students, attempting to force Master Mo to accept your disrespectful delusions for your sake? Yiqing Luo's words instantly made those students who were originally infuriated by Feng Ling burst out laughing. Pairs of disdainful eyes fell on Feng Ling. Looking at Feng Ling was like looking at a nauseating love-struck fool. Feng Ling had grown up in the imperial palace since young. Because of her grandmother, she had always been the center of attention since young, as everyone revolved around her. Since when had she suffered such humiliation? Her face turned pale as tears uncontrollably flowed out. Her teary eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. She turned around and covered her face as she sobbed softly and walked far away. A few female students chased after her, as they scolded and swore that the next time they saw Feng Ling, they would definitely catch her and give her a good beating. As for the other male students, when they saw Feng Ling's pitiful crying look as she left, they couldn't bear to chase after her. For a moment, all the students were discussing about what happened earlier. Yiqing Luo guessed. Probably in less than a joss stick's time, the entire West Lawn Public Square would probably know about a lady named Feng Ling, shamelessly deceiving everyone, delusional that she was Master Mo Xian's fiancé. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she shot a glance at Mo Xian and snorted lightly. Without looking back, he walked into the dormitory and returned to his room. Although she appeared to be so arrogant on the surface, in actual fact, Mo Xian's actions of avoiding Feng Ling's touch and publicly denying Feng Ling's lies had completely pleased her. Now Wenqing had become a joke in West Billow Square. Yiqing Luo expressed that her mood had already bloomed, although it wasn't clear what was the relationship between Mo Xian and the Imperial Palace's grandma. It was unclear what kind of feelings were involved between Mo Xian and Grandma Earth Palace. But the only thing that Yiqing Luo could confirm was that Mo Xian truly respected the Imperial Palace's granny. Otherwise, Feng Ling would not have used her grandmother to threaten Mo Xian time and time again. For her, Mo Xian rejected Feng Ling. She was already very satisfied. Yiqing Luo quickly returned to her room, waiting for Mo Xian to sneak into her room to look for her. Mo Xian indeed intended to chase after them, but before he could even lift his leg, those students who chased after Feng Ling had already turned back and surrounded him. The students apologized for listening to Feng Ling's words earlier and reprimanding Master Mo Xian, deeply afraid that Master Mo Xian would blame them. Pulling and pulling, they refused to let Emotion leave no matter what. With Emotion's current status, it wasn't convenient for him to fly into a rage and chase these students away. The crowd surged, and one by one, black heads swayed in front of his eyes. Emotion could only look on helplessly as Yiqing Luo's figure slowly disappeared. Emotion expressed. Chapter 1271. Three Springs City, the World Mercenary Group's old residence. The students of the Devil class were sent back to the old mansion by 10 horse carriages. They were dispersed and escorted back by the Emperor Palace's disciples. One by one, the carriages entered the old mansion. Zhao Bo and the others stepped forward to carry the youths off the carriages. All of them sucked in a breath of cold air. The youths of Devil class laid in the horse carriage, completely unable to move. The faces of the youths were pale, and their brows were tightly knitted together in pain. There were no scars on their bodies, but they seemed to be in extreme pain from head to toe, as if they were on the verge of death. Zhao Bo immediately ordered his men to gently lift the youths off the carriage and send them to their rooms. For a time, the atmosphere in the old mansion was extremely heavy. No one spoke. Only the pained cries of the youths could be heard faintly drifting in the air. The last carriage entered the old house. The first to open the curtains was Qiao Jin, who was dressed in a red uniform and had his brows furrowed. He carried the pale-faced Yin Xiaoyi in his arms and gently leapt off the carriage. Executive Commander. When Zhao Bo saw Qiao Jin, he asked in a low voice with an extremely ugly expression, "What's going on?" He knew that Yiqing Luo and the others were going to take part in the Academy's interclass competition. The competition in the Academy had been witnessed by the various elders and teachers of the Academy. No matter how fierce the battle was, it was impossible for him to be injured to this extent, right? Furthermore, based on the strength of the other students in the Heavenly Academy, how could they hurt this bunch of youngsters? Zhao Bo was full of doubts. Qiao Jin did not reply. His face was ashen as he stared fixedly at the woman in his arms, as if he could no longer see anyone or anything in the outside world. "Where is Holy Pirate?" Long Yunzhan's cold voice came from behind him. Zhao Bo halted his steps and bowed respectfully. "Guild leader." Long Yunzhan coldly nodded. "They are badly hurt. Let's ask Holy Pirate to come." Zhao Bo responded and immediately turned in the direction of Holy Pirate's courtyard. Long Yunzhan looked at the back view of Qiao Jin carrying Yin Xiaoyi as they left. He wanted to catch up and wait for God Pirate's arrival. Just as he was about to lift his leg, Long Yunzhan's ears twitched. A hint of vigilance flashed across his indifferent eyes. Footsteps were approaching. Moreover, there were more than 20 of them. He frowned and turned around. When he saw the person behind him, the seriousness on his face eased a little. "Why are you here?" It was none other than Tao Tao. Behind Peach, there were more than 20 doctors dressed in doctor uniforms with medical boxes on their waists. As far as the eye could see, the youngest doctor was over 50 years old. The doctors were panting heavily, and their foreheads were dripping with sweat. When they arrived at the old house, they wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads and looked around. "Captain Peach Blossom, where are the injured?" Peach also ran all the way here. Her delicate face was covered with a thin layer of sweat. She looked up at Long Yunzhan and panted, "Leader Long, where are the injured people? I specially asked Peach Blossom 3000 to invite the famous doctors near Three Springs City over. Thank you for your hard work." He was about to ask Holy Pirate to find the famous doctor from Three Springs City, but Peach had already made the arrangements. "Thank you." Long Yunzhan curled his lips slightly, his azure blue eyes revealing sincerity. Peach looked at the handsome face in front of her, and a trace of amazement flashed in her eyes. It was the first time she had seen Long Yunzhan smile. All along, Long Yunzhan had been expressionless and emotionless. It was a little surprising. Chapter 1272. He was still dressed like a nouveau riche. Against the sunlight, his entire body shone with a dazzling golden light. In an instant, God Thief was already standing in front of Long Yunzhan, as he held onto Long Yunzhan's shoulder. "Qing Luo that last didn't come back with you? Don't tell me. You were beaten up badly in an interclass competition?" We won the competition. He interrupted Holy Pirate's wild thoughts. Take these doctors and check their pulses. We can talk about the rest later. Long Yunzhang coldly replied. After saying that, he led the 20 or so doctors to the youngsters' rooms. The old house, which had been silent for a long time, gradually became extremely lively. The doctor came and went. Zhao Bo and the others listened to the doctor's instructions and ran back and forth to help. Yan Xiaoyi's room. Xiao Jin sat by the bed and used a towel to wipe the cold sweat off Yan Xiaoyi's forehead. That delicate little face was now as pale as a sheet of paper. Her usually fiery red lips were now devoid of any color. His breathing was extremely heavy, and from time to time, he would let out soft moans of pain. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together, as if she was enduring the intense pain. Xiao Jin's hand, which was wiping her cold sweat, couldn't stop trembling. Seeing Yan Xiaoyi in such pain, his heart ached even more. He couldn't wait to take her place and bear the pain. Xiao Jin was infinitely vexed. Why wasn't he by Yan Xiaoyi's side when they were at the back mountain? If he had accompanied Yan Xiaoyi wouldn't have suffered such serious injuries, and wouldn't have needed to consume the Imperial Palace's pills, and wouldn't have to suffer such pain. His slender fingers curled up the towel in his hand one by one. At this moment, the strong and determined man's eyes reddened. Xiao Jin put the towel into the basin and gently held her little hand. Her delicate hand was so small, yet his large palm could completely wrap around her small hand. Xiao Jin held her hand tightly, lifted it gently, and pressed it against his cheek. Her hands were bone-chilling just like frost. It was so cold that his body trembled slightly. His heart was aching and filled with guilt. Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin murmured softly, calling Yan Xiaoyi's name affectionately. Even he himself did not notice it. The tenderness in his words could almost be squeezed out of water. His gaze was tender and tender, his expression gentle. Xiaoyi, after going through this, I'm increasingly certain of your position in my heart. When you wake up, when you get better, I will definitely tell you everything in my heart. A pained groan interrupted Xiao Jin's murmurs. Xiao Jin, who had been confessing tenderly, paused. Their previous high morale instantly vanished without a trace. The eyelashes of the woman lying on the bed trembled as she twisted her body in pain. His breathing became heavier and heavier, as if he was suffering from indescribable pain. Xiao Jin held her hand tightly and pressed it against his face. He covered her eyes with his other hand. Xiaoyi, I'm here. I'm here. In his palm, he could clearly feel the movement of his eyelashes. Xiao Jin's heart trembled, and he immediately withdrew his hand. Sure enough, he saw a pair of beautiful eyes that were covered with a layer of haziness. She blinked her eyes in a daze, her face scrunched up in pain, until Yan Xiaoyi's eyes completely opened, and a pair of hazily beautiful eyes looked towards him. Xiao Jin's entire body stiffened. He was still holding Yan Xiaoyi's hand and placing it against his cheek. Chapter 1273. Yan Xiaoyi's gaze was fixated on Xiao Jin. She didn't speak. He became increasingly nervous. After a while, Xiao Jin stood up in a panic. I just felt that your hand was very cold, so. He stuttered as he explained, his face full of nervousness. He had just vowed that as long as Yan Xiaoyi woke up, he would tell her about his feelings. At this moment, those words had long been forgotten, because of his nervousness when facing Yan Xiaoyi. His stuttering explanation was stopped when Yan Xiaoyi slowly sat up. Xiao Jin pressed Yan Xiaoyi down in a panic. You can't move around recklessly now. Before the doctor comes, lie down and rest. As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Xiaoyi's body actually fell towards him softly. Then, without warning, she stretched out her hands and wrapped them around his firm waist. That pale little face was pressed against his abdomen. Xiao Jin could clearly feel Yan Xiaoyi's icy cold face through the thin layer of clothing. Xiao Jin. Yan Xiaoyi's pale thin lips opened slightly as she softly called out his name. Because of this action, the wounds on his body were affected, causing a tearing pain. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes reddened. Her little hands wrapped even tighter as her voice revealed a trace of grievance. Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin was stunned. She wasn't angry at him for holding her hand without permission? And she even took the initiative to wrap her arms around his waist? Xiao Jin's heart beat wildly, his entire body inexplicably hot. He looked at the young girl who was hugging him, his body stiff, his arms trembling as he reached towards her. He wanted to wrap his arms around Yin Xiaoyi, but he was afraid of being rejected by Yin Xiaoyi. Don't tell me you hate me that much? Yin Xiaoyi suddenly raised her head, her misty eyes looking at him. Her beautiful eyes were slightly red, revealing a thin layer of mist. Xiao Jin's heart stopped. He subconsciously reached out to hold her face, gently caressing her eyes. How could I hate you, Xiaoyi? How could I hate you? I can't wait to like you. How could I hate you? Don't cry. If you cry, my heart will ache. Xiao Jin silently added another sentence in his heart. His slender fingers gently caressed Yin Xiaoyi's eyes. Yin Xiaoyi's little hands tightened around his waist, seemingly enjoying Xiao Jin's touch. She slowly closed her eyes, and the pain between her brows eased a little. He waited for a long time, but he didn't feel the sensation he was expecting. Yin Xiaoyi opened her eyes in confusion. She saw Xiao Jin staring at her, not knowing what he was thinking. Yin Xiaoyi blinked her eyes in a daze, her soft body lying on top of his. The woman's soft and delicate body, especially the softness in front of her chest, was pressed tightly against his chest. Xiao Jin was hot-blooded, and the one in his arms was the woman he loved. His body tensed up and he reached out to pry Yin Xiaoyi's hand away. Ugh, it hurts. Yin Xiaoyi refused to let go. She didn't know why, but every time her body moved, she would feel a dull pain. It was as if his internal organs had been torn apart. Why could he still feel such clear pain in his dream? However, she still endured the pain, and only wanted to hug Xiao Jin tightly. This dream belonged to her alone. Only in her dreams did this man belong to her alone. Only in her dreams could she do whatever she wanted to do to him, without any qualms. She wasn't willing to wake up, nor was she willing to let go of him in her dreams. This was her dream, so she could do anything, as long as she could keep him. Chapter 1274. Hearing Yin Xiaoyi cry out in pain, Xiao Jin immediately panicked. How would he dare to struggle again? Looking at Yin Xiaoyi with a worried gaze, Xiao Jin asked helplessly, "Where does it hurt? Where does it hurt? Bear with it, the doctor will be here soon. I'll rush the doctor over to take a look at you. Don't cry." Just as he was about to turn and leave, the two hands around his waist wrapped around him tightly, unwilling to let go. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin didn't dare to move too much, worried that it would affect Yin Xiaoyi's wound. Before he could speak, Yin Xiaoyi held his hand. She pulled his large palm and placed it on her chest. "It hurts here, it hurts." "Xiao Jin, what do I do? I'm about to die from the pain." Xiao Jin's mind went blank. It was as if a ball of white light exploded in his mind. What did his hand touch? It was as soft as cotton. It was so soft that he subconsciously wanted to move his fingers. Once he moved, he heard a soft moan. It was alluring. His consciousness suddenly came back to his senses. His eyes fixed on Yin Xiaoyi's body. His hand was still on Yin Xiaoyi's chest. His fingers were bent. It was obvious that he really rubbed. Xiaoyi, sorry." Xiao Jin's face instantly flushed red. He wanted to retract his hand, but Yin Xiaoyi seemed to know what he wanted to do, and stopped him in advance. With this pull and pull, the feeling in his palm became increasingly clear. Xiao Jin's body was extremely tense, the emotions in his eyes constantly attacking his lower abdomen. His eyes were already filled with a trace of desire. No, it can't be like this. Xiaoyi's injury was so serious. How could he have such thoughts towards Xiaoyi at this time? Xiao Jin constantly convinced himself. His arms slightly exerted force, wanting to maintain a distance from Yin Xiaoyi. But Yin Xiaoyi was very strong. Under the pull, Yin Xiaoyi's body was already weak. Her body fell forward, about to fall off the bed. Xiao Jin caught Yin Xiaoyi in time. The two of them fell to the ground. Xiao Jin acted as a cushion, so Yin Xiaoyi didn't fall. But the position of the two was a little too ambiguous. Xiao Jin also realized this, and shifted his gaze away unnaturally. "Xiaoyi, can you move?" Yin Xiaoyi leaned against his chest. Her slightly red face was no longer as cold as before. She replied softly. her little hand subconsciously grabbing onto his shirt. Get up first. Xiao Jin's tense body had already reached its limit. The most torturous thing in the world. Nothing was better than being intimate with the woman he loved. But he couldn't and didn't dare to do anything. Yan Xiaoyi suddenly raised her eyes and looked deeply at Xiao Jin. Her hands changed from gripping his clothes to gently caressing it. His fingers were like elves, moving through a layer of clothing. A trace of a smile blossomed on her lips. Didn't you forcefully press me against the table the last time? Forcefully kissed me? You still want to take off my clothes? Xiao Jin's body stiffened, and his breathing became heavy. What, you don't have the guts now? Yan Xiaoyi suddenly bent down and pressed her fingers on Xiao Jin's lips. Only you are allowed to forcefully push me. But I'm not allowed to forcefully push you? Just as her voice fell, her lips had already forcefully pressed on his, forcefully biting and caressing. She imitated how he had kissed her the last time, and returned the kiss to Xiao Jin, without changing anything. Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin's voice was already hoarse. There was a voice in his head that kept shouting for him to press down this unbridled woman on top of him. Somewhere in his body, it kept clamoring for action. But he maintained his rationality. Calm down. Calm down. Xiao Yi's actions must be because the injuries on her body had worsened, causing her to lose consciousness. He couldn't take advantage of her. But this thought just flashed past his mind. Chapter 1275. Yan Xiaoyi's slender and fair little hands were as soft as silk. They bounced on Xiao Jin's chest. Slowly it slid into his clothes. Her delicate skin came into contact with him without any resistance. Xiao Jin's tense nerves broke down at this moment. His eyes, which were filled with yearning, were bloodshot, burning with the flames of lust. Xiao Yi. His hoarse voice revealed an irrepressible lust. Xiao Jin reached out and hugged the girl who was lying on him. You asked for it. He was a man. He was young and full of vigor. How could he control himself under the seduction of the girl he loved? If he could control himself, then he wasn't a man. Xiao Jin's fierce and unreasonable look didn't make Yan Xiaoyi afraid at all. Instead, she giggled out loud. Because of her discomfort, her frowning brows relaxed at this moment. If you dare to stop, then you aren't a man. Yan Xiaoyi grabbed his clothes tightly and pulled hard. After pulling Xiao Jin down, she kissed his thin lips fiercely. In this dream, she wanted to truly feel Xiao Jin's taste, Xiao Jin's temperature, Xiao Jin's everything. In this dream, Xiao Jin belonged to her alone. Yan Xiaoyi's kiss became more and more lingering. Xiao Jin turned from guest to host, biting Yan Xiaoyi's lips. The intense kiss raised the temperature of the whole room. The two of them were already entangled. At this moment, Brat, is Xiaoyi okay? I've brought the ghost doctor over. Let's take a look at Xiao Yi and see what's going on. The door was pushed open rudely. God Thief tugged on the ghost doctor's sleeve and swaggered in. Peach, Long Yunjian, and Xiaobo followed behind. Immediately, there was a moment of silence. The few of them looked at everything that was happening in the room in shock, smelling the extremely ambiguous smell in the air. Both parties froze. Xiao Jin was originally full of lust. Now that he was shocked and being watched, he was so scared that he went soft. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Damn, would he have a shadow in his heart in the future? Would he be able to get better in the future? Damn, he wouldn't be impotent, right? Cough, cough, cough. Holy Pirate, who was the first to react, blushed. He immediately dragged the ghost doctor away. When Long Yunjian, Xiaobo, and the others came to their senses, they reached out to cover Peach's eyes and forcibly took her away. The door slammed shut again with a bang. Outside the door, the ghost doctor's voice could be heard. If you don't want Miss Yan's injuries to worsen, you'd better stop now. Otherwise, even I, the ghost doctor, will be powerless. You're such an unromantic old man. The young couple is so loving inside. And you have to say such things that spoil the mood. Holy Pirate spat a few times as if he was pulling the ghost doctor away. When Xiao Jin, who was in the room, heard the ghost doctor's words, all his feelings completely vanished into thin air. He stiffened his body and quickly got up. He discovered that the girl beneath him had unknowingly fallen unconscious again. Her little face turned even paler. His brows were tightly knitted, as if he was in unbearable pain. His lips that were swollen and moist from kissing opened slightly, and he kept groaning in pain. Xiaoyi, Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's heart suddenly felt a sharp pain, and it twitched fiercely. Chapter 1276. While the ghost doctor was taking Yin Xiaoyi's pulse, Long Yunjian succinctly recounted what had happened in West Lawn Square. After hearing that all the students in the devil class had been surrounded by the dark forces, which was why they were so heavily injured, the ghost doctor and God Pirate's eyes met, and a haze flashed across their eyes. He was already heavily injured to begin with, and he even consumed the spirit-returning pill specially made by the Imperial Palace. If it was an ordinary profound practitioner, once the effects of the spirit-returning pill were used up, he would either die or be crippled. Ghost Doctor's white brows creased, as he impatiently flung Yen Xiaoyi's wrist away. Luckily you've been nourished by last Qing Luo's medicinal pill, and your body's quality has far surpassed ordinary people, so you're able to withstand the backlash from the spirit-returning pill. The more he spoke, the more impatient his expression became. You're just a bunch of kids who haven't even grown hair yet. Why do you have to provoke this kind of thing? Troublesome. If it wasn't for the fact that these youngsters had a close relationship with Yi Qing Luo, the ghost doctor really wasn't willing to waste her time refining medicine to treat these troublesome brats. So it's the soul-restoring pill. No wonder I can't see any injuries on these kids, but they're all howling like pigs being slaughtered. Holy Pirate suddenly understood and looked at Ghost Doctor. This group of kids are like newborn calves that are not afraid of tigers. They even dared to take elixirs like the Return God pill. Most profound practitioners did not dare to experience the consequences of consuming the soul-returning pill. In the case of severe injuries, after consuming the soul-returning pellet, the wounds on the profound practitioner's body would heal on their own. After the effects of the medicine dissipated, the wounds on the body would not reappear. However, the wound still had an effect on the body. Not only did profound practitioners have to endure pain that was 100 times more painful than when they were heavily injured, they also had to. He couldn't find the exact location of the wound on his body, or what kind of injury it was. But there was no way to save him. Ghost Doctor. Xiao Jin stood stiffly by the bedside, his gaze deeply fixed on Yen Xiaoyi, whose face was filled with pain. Is there no other way? The moment he opened his mouth, the ghost doctor glared at him maliciously. You brat, you still dare to speak. You clearly knew that this girl's injuries were severe, yet you still did that kind of thing to her. If we hadn't come early, this girl's life would have been in your hands. How troublesome. All he did was create trouble for him. Xiao Jin was unable to refute and lowered his eyes in guilt. All right, call that bunch of quacks over, and first tell them how to find the location of the wound. The ghost doctor couldn't be bothered to say anything else. She just wanted to resolve this troublesome matter as soon as possible. In his heart, he was already thinking that when Yi Qing Luo returned, he would definitely make her repay the kindness. Locking Yi Qing Luo in the secret alchemy room for 10 days to half a month to help him refine medicinal pills. Quack doctor? Xiaobo swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Those doctors were the most prestigious doctors in and outside of Three Springs City, and within a radius of hundreds of miles. In the mouth of the ghost doctor, all of them had become quacks? Long Yunjian's cold gaze swept past Xiaobo. Xiaobo shuddered and reacted. I'll call them over now. West Lawn Square Dormitory. Night approached the hour of Yin. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were shut as she fell into dreamland. Even in her dreams, her brows were still tightly knitted. It was as if he couldn't calm down. Suddenly, a well-defined finger gently touched her tightly knitted eyebrows. A strong arm wrapped around the sleeping girl. The purple robe fluttered. Under the dim candlelight, the fluorescent glow was harmonious. Ah Xian, stop fooling around. The young lady pouted her pink lips as she raised her hand to push away the arm, which was restraining her waist, turning over and continuing to sleep. In the next instant, a pair of warm lips had already sealed her lips. The elegant sandalwood scent, mixed with the scent of male hormones. Chapter 1277. Yi Qing Luo moaned twice as both her hands pushed against Di Emotien's chest. But her struggle made Demo Xian even more overbearing. In just a short while, he made her throw away her armor. She opened her eyes in a daze as she gazed into that pair of tender and sweet peach blossom eyes. Her hands automatically wrapped around his neck as she pressed her lips tightly against his as she murmured, "Ah Xian." Just as she relaxed her body and closed her eyes to enjoy the intimacy with Demo Xian, the man who was leaning on her had already moved his body away. The man's scorching temperature suddenly disappeared. His large palm moved her wrists away from his neck. Yiqing Luo frowned in puzzlement. Was the emperor bird the kind of person who would give up on conquering her when she took the initiative? It was obviously the kind of person who could turn the tables and forcefully suppress her. At this critical juncture, the emperor bird actually took the initiative to stop. Cough. This could be a fake Demo Xian. Get up and wash up. The deep male voice made her mellow for a moment. Yiqing Luo lazily turned over and laid on the pillow, ignoring him. She was extremely dissatisfied with Demo Xian's sudden stop. Bei Yuan is waiting for you. Aren't you going to get up? Demo Xian's thin lips curled as his body leaned down once again. Or, do you want me to continue? The man's warm breath sprayed on the skin on the back of her neck. His large palm slowly covered her back. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as her cheeks turned slightly red. Just as she was about to avoid Demo Xian's touch, his hand suddenly pressed on her waist. That faintly discernible teasing made Yiqing Luo's face flushed red like a raging fire, burning hot. Her brain heated up as she simply turned over and grabbed Demo Xian's deliberately teasing hand as she gritted her teeth and spat out a word. Continue if you have the ability. The man who was looking at her from a close distance suddenly froze. That originally playful smile on his face instantly turned gloomy. Yiqing Luo raised her brows in provocation as she flung Demo Xian's hand to one side. Just as she was about to proudly get up, her shoulders sank, and she fell onto the bed once again. Then his scalding hot body pressed down. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment, and before she could even say a word, she was fiercely kissed by Demo Xian. This kiss was different from the past. Instead, it was a fierce, aggressive kiss. It was as if he was really moved by Guyu and his feelings were aroused. Yiqing Luo was so shocked that she pushed Demo Xian's chest. She was still on her period. Demo Xian wouldn't be that beastly, forcefully pushing her during her menstrual period, right? However, to Demo Xian, her struggles were merely tickling. His hand followed her body straight down. It slid between her breasts. Yiqing Luo struggled even more fiercely. Without saying a word, Demo Xian's fingers swept over the inside of her twin crescent breasts and pressed down hard. Oh! Yiqing Luo's body shuddered violently as her breathing stopped momentarily. Her blushing face was now flushed red, as if it was on fire. He's a heartless beast. He actually used his hands to press down on her. Lil Luo, don't try to provoke a man's self-control. Demo Xian's low and hoarse voice revealed his deep feelings. There's still 5 more days. I will continue until you cry and beg for mercy. His lips brushed past her earlobe. It made Yiqing Luo's petite body shudder continuously. Yiqing Luo's mind went blank. Even when the man flipped over and got down from her body, she still hadn't noticed it. Looking at the completely dazed young lady, Demo Xian smiled helplessly. Chapter 1278. This lass usually only dared to show off with her mouth. But if he really touched her, she would be more shy than anyone else. His thin lips curled into a smile, becoming increasingly gentle and pampering. He bent over and stretched out his hand to embrace the young lady who was still in a daze. His other hand went around to the wooden frame and pulled Yiqing Luo's uniform down. His hands moved gently and helped her put on her clothes. His movements were neat and skillful, and it took only a moment for him to tie Yiqing Luo's clothes. During the period of Yiqing Luo's training, Demo Xian not only helped her wash her clothes secretly, he would also gently help her put on her clothes when she was tired, in order to let her sleep a little longer. He was simply the country's best husband, right? It was until the last straps were tied up that Yiqing Luo regained her senses in a daze. Her flustered and shy gaze met Demo Xian's eyes, and her cheeks blushed again. It's almost time. If you're not ready, you'll miss today's good opportunity and have to wait until tomorrow night. Dmo Xian stopped teasing her. His slender fingers pinched her blushed cheeks. Go wash up. Right. The second bell rang in the afternoon. It was the best time to extract the heart bone and heart blood. She wanted to repair the broken glower flame fan and combine her heart bone with the glower flame fan. Thinking of the glower flame fan, the flush on Yiqing Luo's face gradually faded. After washing up, the two of them hurried to meet up with Tang Beiyuan. When Yiqing Luo arrived at the destination, she was stunned. This was the tunnel where Yi Fengyu met Yiqing Qian and Yiqing Ling when he was kidnapped. Because of the conflict with Wolf Saint Law in this tunnel, the entire broken temple and tunnel had become a pile of ruins. Because of this, there were very few people here. Generally, one might not even see a person pass by this place for 10 days to half a month. Choosing this place to extract the heart bone was the safest. In the ruins of the tunnel, an empty space of about 2 meters wide had been cleared. There were arrays placed around. At first glance, there was a sense of déjà vu, as if preparing to exorcise the spirits. Under the night sky, Tang Beiyuan's aqua-colored dress seemed to be plated with a layer of silver light. She gazed at the bright moon in the sky, her gaze focused and emotionless. No one knew what she was thinking. His entire person inexplicably showed a sense of loneliness. She had an extremely simple and exquisite hairstyle. She had bright eyes and white teeth. Her eyebrows were like the moon, and her eyes were like the stars. She was like a goddess under the moonlight, exuding an extremely gentle charm. Tang Beiyuan seemed to have heard the footsteps and withdrew her gaze. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she looked at the newcomer. Dizun, madam. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly red. It's better to call me Qing Luo. We haven't even taken a step yet. It's still too early to call me mistress. He tightened his grip on her waist. Dmo Xian leaned close to her ear and said with a smile that didn't look like a smile. "En? Nothing has been set in stone yet. So you've never thought of marrying me?" Yiqing Luo blushed and patted the hand on her waist. "I didn't mean it that way. That's not what I mean. Still, you want to get married to me?" Dmo Xian raised his brows as he leaned his face in front of her, his smile widening. "You beast." He was simply perverse to the extreme. He actually intentionally tricked her into saying something. No matter if it's early or not, you're the mistress that the Overlord has acknowledged, so you're the Imperial Palace's mistress. Tang Beiyuan smiled brightly as a sliver of envy flashed past her eyes. Yiqing Luo recalled Tang Beiyuan standing under the moonlight, that lonely expression. Tang Beiyuan had a fiancé, and it was the kind of fiancé that she loved deeply. Why would she show such an expression? Chapter 1279. Dong. The first bell rang. It broke the silence. Tang Beiyuan grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm and brought her to the center of the array. Hurry up. After the glower flame fan is restored, I still need to rush back to the palace. Dmo Xian followed closely behind. After the two of them entered the array, Tang Beiyuan walked to the side. It might be a little painful to extract your heart bone. After it's extracted, your body will take a long time to recover. You won't be as weak as you are now. Yiqing Luo nodded. She had already guessed this point. The Overlord will personally extract the heart bone and blood for you. Don't worry about failure. The Overlord will not bear to let you suffer too much. You just need to remember, after extracting the heart bone, you must not leave the Overlord's side. Tang Beiyuan's voice turned solemn. A pair of beautiful eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo solemnly. A high and mighty person is not allowed to have any weakness, and you are the Overlord's weakness. I don't wish for any accidents to happen to the Overlord because of you. Beiyuan. Dmo Xian's handsome brows creased slightly. His eyes sunk as he swept a cold glance at Tang Beiyuan. Xian. Yiqing Luo hurriedly pressed Dmo Xian's hand. Miss Tang is right, I will take note. Tang Beiyuan said this to her because she had identified Yiqing Luo as the mistress of the Imperial Palace, and also because she was sincerely worried about Dmo Xian's safety. Her current ability was indeed not enough to make the people in the Imperial Palace feel assured. Nirvana realm worshipped Demo Xian as a god, but there were thousands of people who wanted to pull him down from the altar. She was Demo Xian's weakness, which meant those who wanted to pull Demo Xian down from the altar, as long as they laid their hands on her, Demo Xian would definitely be controlled. This was also the reason why Ah Feng hated her so much from the start. She could not become Demo Xian's burden. She could not drag Demo Xian down. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes sparkled with a resolute glow. She looked at Tang Beiyuan and confidently smiled, word by word, as though she was making an oath. Don't worry. Whatever you are worried about, I will try my best not to let it happen. It was the same as what Tang Beiyuan had said when they first met, when she thought that Tang Beiyuan was the second Feng Ling. He returned it to her untouched. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. The second bell rang. The three of them did not waste any more time. According to Demo Xian's request, Yiqing Luo sat cross-legged. He began to extract the heart bone and blood. Three Springs City, the World Mercenary Group's old residence. After several hours of treatment, the wounds on the youth's bodies were finally bandaged. However, if they wanted to fully recover, they would probably have to lie in bed for half a month. Half a month was neither a long time nor a short time. But to these youths, if he didn't train for a day, it was very likely that others would catch up. Not to mention half a month's time. Hearing this news, although the youths were clamoring about finally being able to rest, their hearts were heavy. He had long since gotten used to the torture of training every day. If they stopped cultivating for half a month, how long would it take for them to return to their original level? The youngsters silently cursed the dark forces from the start to the end. After treating the last youngster's wound, Ghost Doctor washed his hands and walked out with a sunken face. Chapter 1280. Heh. The Ghost Doctor sneered. Holy Pirate's smile did not diminish. Old Doctor, to thank you for your hard work, I will personally send you back to the academy today. F***ck off. Ghost Doctor's mouth twitched a few times. He did not look happy at Holy Pirate's gesture of goodwill. Holy Pirate was still smiling as he followed behind him. So many years had passed. The Ghost Doctor was still the same as before, stubborn on the outside, but soft on the inside. Long Yunzhan, Xiao Jin, and the rest comforted the injured youths one by one, letting them rest well. The two of them came out of the room and walked down the quiet corridor. The entire journey was silent. After a while, Long Yunzhan's cold voice broke the silence. Are you serious about Xiaoyi? Long Yunzhan was not a sensitive person. He was completely unaware of the relationship between Xiao Jin and Yin Xiaoyi. If he hadn't seen that scene with his own eyes today, he reckoned that Xiao Jin and Yin Xiaoyi were merely companions. Xiao Jin's footsteps paused. That delicate and pretty face appeared in his mind. His eyes softened as he replied softly, yes. That's a straightforward answer. Long Yunzhan gave him a sidelong glance. What's Xiaoyi's attitude? Hi. Xiao Jin recalled the past few times when he forcefully kissed Yin Xiaoyi, only to be slapped by her. His heart sank. I don't know. You still haven't told her? Long Yunzhan frowned. They were already so intimate, but they still hadn't admitted their relationship? Xiao Jin lowered his eyes, speechless. I understand how you feel. Long Yunzhan looked at him deeply, and a helpless smile flashed across his azure blue eyes. I want to say it, but I can't. Facing the woman he loved, he would be nervous. He was so nervous that his mind went blank, and he was unable to accurately express the feelings in his heart. Furthermore, if he told her, they might not even be friends anymore. In order to stay by her side as a friend, Xiao Jin did not dare to say it. But he couldn't say it. But you and I are different. Long Yunzhan patted his shoulder lightly. If you really like her, then tell her your feelings as soon as possible. Otherwise it will be too late. Xiao Jin nodded silently, countless thoughts surging in his mind. The two of them fell into silence again. When they reached the end of the corridor, the two were about to part ways. Suddenly, a flame flashed before his eyes. The sky was filled with flames, covering the sky and covering the earth as they swept over. One by one, the burning torches fell from the sky. In an instant, All the flammable items in the mansion were set ablaze. The expressions of the two immediately changed. I will go and take a look at the situation. You, Xiaobo, and the rest quickly bring the brothers away. Long Yunjian hurriedly instructed before immediately flying in the direction where the fire had come from. Xiao Jin took out the World Group's medal from his bosom and said, "Brothers, gather at the backyard immediately and carry the injured brothers out." By the time Xiao Jin rushed back to the backyard, Zhao Bo and the 20 over people were already waiting for him there. "Executive Commander, why did it suddenly catch fire? Where did this fire come from?" Zhao Bo asked Xiao Jin, as he arranged for the other brothers to carry the injured youths out. Xiao Jin's brows furrowed tightly as he shook his head. "Ajan has gone to hunt down the culprit behind the fire. Let's carry our brothers out first. The fire is burning really fiercely. I'm afraid it's going to reach the backyard soon." At this critical moment, the few of them did not dare to be negligent. The fire was getting fiercer and fiercer, just as the few of them dashed into the room and were about to carry the youths out. In the courtyard where the fire was flickering, batch after batch of people dressed in black robes suddenly appeared. Chapter 1281. People from the Dark Forces. How could the people of the Dark Forces know that we are in the old house? Xiao Jin's expression instantly changed greatly. On the night before the competition, before the effects of the drug had worn off, they had split up into dozens of carriages and returned to the old house while hiding in the crowd. Even the spies of the 3,000 Peach Blossom mercenary group were unable to obtain this information. How could the people from the underworld know about this? Furthermore, hadn't Yi Qing Luo mentioned that under the Imperial Palace's coercion, the Dark Forces totally couldn't spare any energy to deal with them? These questions, Xiao Jin already did not have time to think in detail. He quickly took out a few coin darts from his sleeves and placed them in front of his brothers to protect them. "All of you leave quickly. None of you can escape." A sharp and proud voice came from the side of the black-robed man. The black-robed man stepped aside, and a graceful woman with a cold and arrogant smile walked over. The woman was also dressed in a black robe. Unlike the others, she did not use the cloak to cover her entire body. Instead, she revealed her face. Xiao Jin's pupils suddenly contracted. "Yi Qingqian? It's actually you. Wasn't this person the slut Yi Qingqian, who had become the laughingstock of Three Springs City some time ago?" Ever since that day when she was humiliated by Yi Qing Luo, Yi Qingqian seemed to have evaporated into thin air. Unexpectedly, she actually joined the underground forces. And they even joined forces with the Dark Forces to attack them? "Call me Protector, one of the protectors of the Dark Forces." Yi Qingjian sneered as she looked at Xiao Jin. Her smile was gloomy. "Student Xiaoen, I didn't remember your name wrongly, right?" Xiao Jin was startled, and his brows knitted tightly together. "I didn't expect. The members of the newly rising World Mercenary Group are actually the students of the Heavenly Academy, the so-called waste class. If the Academy finds out about this, will they regret placing you in the Devil class?" Yi Qingqian raised her brows as she gave a teasing smile. "I heard that you've won the championship in the interclass competition. As an old classmate, I should congratulate you." Her words, her voice were exceptionally harsh. Xiao Jin's face sank. His entire body tensed as he forcefully endured his rage and didn't act rashly. There were about 200 people on the other side. All of them were profound practitioners from the Dark Forces. He possessed the forbidden skills and secret techniques of the Dark Forces. On their side, there were only about 20 of them who could fight. Furthermore, he had to take care of the other 50 or so companions who were injured and unable to move. In particular, the fire in the old house had spread to the backyard. If they really fought, they would never be able to gain the upper hand. "I wonder how Ajan is doing. Yo, isn't this the other students from the Devil class? Why are all of you bandaged like this?" Yi Qingqian didn't care whether those people responded to her or not as she covered her mouth and pointed at the youngsters behind Xiao Jin in shock. A pair of evil and cold eyes curved as he smiled. "A look at my memory. I forgot that the day before your match, The dark forces happened to pass by the mountain behind your square. We happened to attack them, and gave them some pointers. Xiao Jin's tense body suddenly trembled. His ordinary-looking face immediately revealed a thick anger. Yi Qingqian looked at his reaction and smiled satisfactorily. I'm rather impressed with you guys, to have received our pointers, and still have the ability to compete on the second day. That day, she knew very well how ruthless the Dark Coalition was. They were just short of killing these people on the spot. Not killing them was just to make Yi Qingluo lose all her face. To make the devil class which Yi Qingluo led to become cowards who didn't dare to take part in the competition, and automatically withdrew from the competition. Chapter 1282. But not only did Yi Qingluo not follow the plan, because all the devil class students were heavily injured and unable to take part in the competition. Instead, she led these devil class students who didn't seem to be injured had won this year's competition's champion. As Yi Qingqian thought about it, her eyes gradually shrouded with a layer of viciousness. The person who attacked us at the back of the mountain is you. A chilly voice was heard from behind Yi Qingqian. She saw a blue-robed Long Yunjian holding a blue long sword as he charged towards Yi Qingqian's direction. His eyes were cold as he had no emotions on his face. The long sword in his hand flashed a cold blue ray, and in the midst of the flames, it drew out a blue light after image. Boom, boom, boom. The sword ray was valiant as it struck the crowd of dark forces. Instantly, a huge deep pit exploded on the ground. However, that sinister smile on Yi Qingqian's lips had already swiftly pulled a distance away the moment Long Yunjian appeared. A huge explosion was heard as the entire old mansion shook nonstop. That blazing flame had also burnt down everything in the courtyard. Earth Profound 8th grade? Devil class monitor is indeed not to be belittled. Yi Qingqian's brows rose as she looked at the domineering man standing in front of Xiao Jin, and the rest in ridicule. Earth Profound 8th grade? Zhao Bo and the rest looked at Long Yunjian in shock. Other than Xiao Jin and the rest, the other students probably didn't know Long Yunjian's true profound grade. They only knew that Long Yunjian was very powerful, but they had not expected that. Long Yunjian was already an Earth Profound 8th grade advanced cultivator, but while they were shocked, Yi Qingqian didn't show any signs of fear. What's more, there wasn't even a hint of flustered expression, as though an Earth Profound 8th grade cultivator, in her eyes, was just an ant. Zhao Bo and the rest's hearts sunk as they looked at Yi Qingqian warily. They were secretly speculating on what profound grade Yi Qingqian, who had cooperated with the dark forces, and even got a protector title in the dark forces. Long Yunjian stood expressionlessly in front of everyone as he slowly raised his long sword and pointed it towards Yi Qingqian. His icy cold voice seemed to be wrapped in frost. Those who hurt the world group must be killed. His words had just ended, and his figure turned into a flowing light as he charged towards those 200 over people. At the same time, Long Yunjian's voice came from the world group badge. There's a secret passage in my room. Bring the other brothers and leave immediately. Pung! The light sword flashed. The blue light whistled and the sword radiance surged. The entire courtyard was instantly stirred up by the terrifying profound qi, causing the ground to be filled with rubble and dust. Boom! There was another loud explosion. The longsword sank into the ground. From the moment the blue longsword plunged into the ground, a thin line that looked like a spider's web split open densely. The ground shook, and the surrounding trees and gravel were all cut down by the sword radiance. Yi Qingqian was originally complacent, as she was filled with disdain towards Long Yunjian. One after another, the sword gleams came down, and Yi Qingqian's expression instantly turned steely green. Go! Charge! Kill everyone in the light devil class. Don't leave a single one alive. Yi Qingqian's voice was sharp as she hurriedly commanded. Smoke and dust filled the air, and they couldn't see anything around them. Due to Long Yunjian's terrifying aura, the ground shook and the mountain swayed, making it hard to even stand. Momentarily, those people from the dark forces turned into a chaotic mess. Whereas on the other side, Zhao Bo swiftly called out to the remaining brothers as they carried the injured students one by one. sending them to Long Yunjian's room. Don't even think of escaping. Yi Qingqian realized Long Yunjian's motive as a burst of profound yin qi rose from her palm. Chapter 1283. The Profound Yin Qi. In just a moment, swallowed all the sword radiance which Long Yunjian had released. Yi Qingqian's arms opened up, and with an elegant posture, she landed steadily among the black-robed men. Her eyes were filled with an eerie chill as she gave a cold harumph. The World Group's leader, an earth-profound 8th-grade cultivator. Are you really willing to submit to a slut skirt? Long Yunjian didn't say a word. He had no intention to converse with Yi Qingqian. The next sword radiance was released once again. The blue long sword, and the sword qi's oppressive grandeur once again enveloped the entire area. The horrifying sword radiance exploded with a huge amount of profound energy. Yi Qingqian swiftly retaliated. Xiao Jin looked at those 200 over people, taking the opportunity to stop Zhao Bo and the rest from assassinating the injured youngsters, as the gold coin darts in his hands flew out and joined the battle. Momentarily, the entire old mansion was in turmoil. But, after all, there was a huge disparity in their abilities, and with the disadvantage in numbers, they still had to protect the other students. In just half an instance's time, Long Yunjian and the rest were forced to retreat to the direction of the bedroom in the backyard. Be careful. Guard the bedroom. Xiao Jin was at the front line, entangling with 10 over dark forces. From the corner of his eyes, he saw 10 over people from the dark forces, quietly getting close to those bedroom. His expression sunk as he shouted out sharply. In the bedroom, there were still many brothers who had not been moved in time. Most of the brothers had fallen into a deep sleep under Ghost Doctor's treatment. If the dark forces were to get close, they wouldn't be able to resist at all. But at this moment, even Zhao Bo and the rest had been restrained by the other dark forces. There was no one who could stop the people who had snuck into the bedroom. The leader of the black-robed men walked into the bedroom and saw a young man who was lying on the bed with his eyes closed resting. The smile on his face was filled with excitement and viciousness. As long as they slaughtered the World Group, this bunch of brats, and took their heads, they would have the chance to become the high and mighty guardians. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly as he raised the weapon in his hand, chopping down towards the neck of the sleeping young man. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard. The weapon in that black-robed man's hand was kicked away, shooting out a silver ray in midair. Ah! Another scream rang out. The weapon fell from the sky and happened to stab the stomach of the black-robed man. The other black-robed men took a closer look. An old man in a white robe was standing in front of the young man's bed. The old man's face was gloomy, and he looked extremely impatient. The dark forces are getting bolder and bolder. The old man narrowed his eyes as he looked at the black-robed men in front of him. The black-robed men looked at each other. They clearly felt that this old man was not someone easy to deal with. Immediately, he turned around and tried to escape. As he turned around, the eyes of the black-robed men were blinded by a flash of golden light. After getting used to the golden light, Zhang Xian saw an old man dressed in a golden robe, looking like a nouveau riche, standing at the entrance of the room. "Old doctor, I'm done on my side. Why haven't you started?" Holy Pirate rushed into the room. Without a word, he grabbed a man in a black robe and punched him in the stomach. With a casual toss, he grabbed the second person. In just a moment, the few black-robed men lost all signs of life. Ghost Doctor looked back at the young man who was still in deep sleep and frowned impatiently. The dark forces are actually so rampant to such an extent. Looks like this matter needs to be reported to the higher-ups as soon as possible. Chapter 1284. God Thief and Ghost Doctor walked out of the room and sensed a burst of strong, profound energy fluctuation. Their expressions congealed as they speedily moved towards the direction of the fluctuation. Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin were already covered with injuries as they retreated step by step, whereas in front of the two of them were rows after rows of men dressed in brown warrior robes. Their dressing was extremely simple, and the most eye-catching thing was on their arms. embroidered with an extremely conspicuous emperor word. That was Imperial Palace's disciples. Imperial Palace's disciples. Any one of them had a pivotal position in the pugilistic world. Any random one of them would be a mystic profound grade 5 and above. Whereas this group of around 30 over Imperial Palace's disciples, the lowest profound grade was mystic profound grade 9, while the highest had already reached earth profound grade 6. Overlord, that fellow, seems to be interested in that last Qing Luo. Holy thief clicked his tongue. His heart that was hanging in the air finally calmed down. These Imperial Palace's disciples must be selected from the Imperial Palace's upper-class disciples. Sending out 30 over upper-class disciples, just to protect these people whom Yi Qing Luo cared about. To Dmo Xian, if it wasn't because he really cared, if he wasn't really interested, Dmo Xian would absolutely not do such a thing. The Imperial Palace's disciples trained in an orderly manner. After helping Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin to block those attacks, they speedily redistributed their own responsibilities. 20 people stayed behind to continue fighting against the dark forces. As for the remaining 10 over people, they pulled Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin towards the direction of Xiaobo and the others. Those 10 over people were extremely agile, as they speedily got close to the bedroom and carried the young man, who was in deep sleep, on their shoulders, as they left without turning their heads back. As for those dark forces who tried to sneak into the bedroom to lay their hands on those injured young men, they were immediately exterminated by them. Zhao Bo and the others stared at those Imperial Palace's disciples in a daze. He had mingled in the mercenary group for so many years, and naturally understood the meaning of the Emperor word on their sleeves. Imperial Palace, Nirvana Realm's first palace. They had not expected the Imperial Palace's disciples to appear here and help them. Zhao Bo felt that he had followed a good team at this moment. When their mercenary group's management grew up, their mercenary group would definitely become the #1 mercenary group in future. What are you still standing here for? Hurry up and carry the brothers away. Xiao Jin slapped the back of Zhao Bo's head and urged. Zhao Bo repeatedly responded and moved his brothers along with the Imperial Palace's disciples. Xiao Jin glanced in the direction of his brothers, who were busy moving things back and forth, then immediately shifted his gaze to the battlefield. 20 over Imperial Palace's disciples, against 100 over people from the dark forces. Yi Qing Qian would occasionally harass them. It was indeed a little strenuous. If it wasn't for their perfect coordination, tacit understanding and absolute strength, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. After dozens of rounds, both sides were in a deadlock. Xiao Jin gripped the coin dart tightly and was about to rush forward to help. However, a large palm pressed down on his shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. Xiao Jin glanced sideways and met with a pair of icy cold azure eyes. Bring Xiao Yi out first. No one has gone to her room yet. Long Yunzhan advised. Xiao Jin's footsteps paused. But what about that side? The Overlord has specially sent people to protect us. We must not let anything happen to the disciples of the Imperial Palace, otherwise. How were they going to explain this to Di Zun? What face did he have to face Yi Qing Luo? Chapter 1285. Then you. Xiao Jin's brows were tightly knitted together. The wounds on Long Yunzhan's body were no less than his. In fact, her injuries were even more serious than his. Otherwise, the Imperial Palace's disciple wouldn't have forcefully dragged them away from the battlefield and indicated that they were only responsible for moving the brothers out of the old mansion. I'm fine. Long Yunzhan shook his head. I know what I'm doing. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and headed towards the battlefield with his blue sword in hand. Xiao Jin stared at Long Yunzhan, who was doing his best to kill in the dark forces. His fists gradually tightened. He pursed his lips and glanced in the direction of Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard. The expression on his face didn't change, as if he was hesitating about something. After a long while, Xiao Jin finally took a deep breath, gripped the coin darts tightly, and walked towards the direction of the battlefield. Kid, you'd better be a good boy and move the injured children. Leave this place to me and the old doctor. Holy Pirate came from behind and pressed down on Xiao Jin's shoulder. Xiao Jin was stunned. He turned his head to look at the two people behind him. God thief, ghost doctor, you guys. Didn't they leave? Alright, stop talking nonsense. The ghost doctor frowned impatiently. He turned around and entered the battlefield. Holy Pirate patted Xiao Jin's shoulder and chased after Ghost Doctor. With the addition of Holy Thief and the Ghost Doctor, the situation of the battle instantly became balanced. Seeing that they had gained the upper hand in the battle, Yi Qingqian was flustered and exasperated as she commanded the black-robed men, who were still alive, to attack. Xiao Jin didn't continue to be entangled as he headed towards Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard. This old mansion was bought by Yan Xiaoyi, excluding the devil-class students, and Zhao Bo and the rest. He, Yiqing Luo, Long Yin Zhan, and the others all had their own independent courtyards. Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard was in the corner of the backyard. Xiao Jin quickly walked towards Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard, and the expression on his face instantly changed. Originally, he was feeling complicated and apprehensive. He was still thinking about how to face the awkwardness and ambiguity between the two of them not long ago, when he saw Yan Xiaoyi. At this moment, a strong feeling of unease and fear emerged. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's voice was hoarse and trembling. He ignored the pain from the wounds on his body and quickly ran towards Yan Xiaoyi's bedroom. The door to Yan Xiaoyi's bedroom was wide open, and there was a pool of blood on the floor. It was obvious that there was a lot of noise coming from inside. The people from the dark forces. They even sent people to search the independent courtyard. Xiaoyi. His Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's eyes were bloodshot. His fingers were tightly gripping the leopard, cutting his skin, but he didn't care. In the scene after rushing into the bedroom, this caused the blood on Xiao Jin's face to instantly disappear. His mind went blank, as if something had exploded in his mind. There were 5 black-robed men standing in the bedroom. There were 2 people lying on the ground. Blood flowed from the 2 men's bodies. Xiang Xiaoyi's bandages had long since fallen apart. She stood in the corner, holding a scythe that shone with blue light, and looked like a crescent moon. Such a petite person was drenched in blood. Her hair, which looked like seaweed, was stuck to her face by her cold sweat. She gasped for air and leaned against the wall. Her body swayed, and she could not stand steadily, but she still stubbornly refused to fall down. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's voice was trembling as he called out Yan Xiaoyi's name. That pair of bloodshot eyes was once again enveloped by the blood color on Yan Xiaoyi. The bewitching red color started to spread bit by bit. His heart was in extreme pain. Murderous intent shot out. Chapter 1286. The 5 black-robed men didn't even have time to react. They only felt a chill on their necks before they lost all consciousness. The power released by a person who was enraged was tens of thousands of times stronger than usual. Xiao Jin stared furiously at the corpses on the ground. He wished he could pull out their tendons and pull out their bones. Xiao Jin. When Yan Xiaoyi saw Xiao Jin's arrival, her tense nerves relaxed. The sickle in her hand fell. She stretched out her hand towards Xiao Jin. But she didn't have any strength in her body. Her vision turned black, and her body fell down softly. Yan Xiaoyi thought that she had always been strong. In this world, the only person she could rely on was herself. Since she was born, the Yan family had treated her as a thorn in their side. Her things should belong to Yan Jinfei. From a young age, she knew that no matter what the situation was, she could only survive by being strong. Just now, when she was surrounded by 7 people, she didn't retreat. A few days ago, she was ambushed at the back mountain of the Shilan Square. Before she had recovered, she was hit again in the competition, adding injuries on top of injuries. The side effects of the spirit returning pill. It made her suffer 100 times more pain than before. Under such circumstances, she could still hold on to her will. What's more, she had experienced pain worse than this before. What was all of this? But the moment she saw Xiao Jin appear, a certain place in her heart seemed to have been violently touched. His worried gaze, trembling and panicked tone made her feel at ease. In his mind, a strange feeling appeared for some reason. It was as if someone was saying to her, "He's here, I'm relieved." Her body and mind relaxed, causing her to lose all consciousness in the next moment. Xiaoyi. A terrified voice shouted Yin Xiaoyi's name loudly. Xiao Jin's body flashed, and he held Yin Xiaoyi firmly in his arms. The blood on her body mixed with his. Her body covered in blood, and wounds made Xiao Jin's heart feel like it was being pierced by needles. If he had listened to Long Yunjian and rushed over earlier, Yin Xiaoyi wouldn't have suffered such heavy injuries. If he had really chosen to join the battle with Long Yunjian, then Xiao Jin's heart was in even more pain. He didn't dare to think of that outcome. He didn't dare to think about the result that he would regret for the rest of his life. Right now his Xiaoyi was in his embrace. That was enough. The resolute man's eyes reddened again. Shilan Square Tunnel. Yiqing Luo's face was pale as she leaned into Di Emotian's arms. Her pair of charming eyes stared anxiously at Tang Beiyuan, who was sitting by the side, in a state of selflessness, as she restored the glower flame fan. The refining process was extremely complicated. Yiqing Luo the alchemist was confused by these complicated procedures. For hours had passed since the heart bone was dug out. The process of repairing the glowing flame fan continued. For some unknown reason, a sense of panic and uneasiness welled up in his heart. He had a feeling that something was about to happen, but she couldn't explain in detail what kind of feeling it was. What's the matter? Diemo Xian acutely sensed the uneasiness of the young lady in his arms, as he inquired in a low voice. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and fell into his peach blossom eyes, which seemed to bear thousands of pampering. The uneasiness in his heart was diluted by this gentleness. She smiled and shook her head. After repairing it for so long, I am a little worried that there might be other problems with the glowing flame fan. Chapter 1287. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she buried her face into his chest. Amen, I'll wait patiently. How does your body feel? It's been 4 hours. It shouldn't be as painful as before, right? Diemo Xian's slender fingers caressed the back of her head. Extracting the heart bone and blood was extremely harmful to the human body. Even if Diemo Xian had used up almost 20% of his profound energy to alleviate Yiqing Luo's pain, it could only alleviate a little bit of her pain. After all, it was extracting the blood from the heart and the bones from the body. When extracting the heart bone, Yiqing Luo's face turned pale from the pain, but she had been biting her lower lip and didn't make any sound of pain. Diemo Xian's heart ached so much that he couldn't wait to bear it for her. But for Yiqing Luo's future, for her to become stronger. This bit of pain, she must bear it. My body is all right. Yiqing Luo responded softly. After a moment of silence, she finally opened her mouth to ask, how long does this kind of pain and discomfort usually last? Her words had just ended when her shoulders were pressed by his large palms. The man's anxious voice floated into her ears. Where do you feel uncomfortable now? Is it still very painful here? His large palm pressed down on her breasts. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she raised her eyes to look at Diemo Xian. Before she could answer, Diemo Xian had already anxiously held her hand and felt her pulse. After extracting the heart bone, it will at most hurt for 1 hour. Do you still feel pain now? Where does it hurt? Don't tell me I'm wrong to extract the heart bone for you. A series of questions, as though he was muttering to himself, came out from his mouth. Looking at Diemo Xian's eyes filled with worry and guilt, Yiqing Luo couldn't say the words that were at the tip of her tongue. After a long time, she curled her pink lips and slowly shook her head. No, I'm just asking casually, to see if there's any difference between me and those who have extracted their heart bone. Diemo Xian's hand, which was holding her wrist, loosened, as though a heavy burden had been lifted. His fingers once again stroked her hair. If you feel uncomfortable anywhere, you must tell me, do you hear me? It was as if he was admonishing a child, extremely doting and extremely gentle. Yiqing Luo's head, which was buried in his chest, nodded as her eyelids drooped down, concealing the complicated emotions in her eyes. She raised her fair little hand and placed it on her chest without anyone noticing. After extracting her heart bone and heart blood, she had always felt a dull pain, as if she was being pricked by needles. Up until now, 4 hours had passed. Although she didn't feel as much pain as before, there was still a very strange feeling. Was it an illusion? All right. Mission accomplished. A joyful voice came from the side. Tang Beiyuan wiped the sweat off her forehead and smiled in relief. At least I didn't let you down. The devouring flame fan has been repaired. Yiqing Luo's attention was immediately attracted by the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo's fingers had just touched the glower flame fan when she suddenly froze. The moment the glowing flame fan touched her fingertips, there seemed to be a kind of the feeling of his soul being shaken. It was as if the glowing flame fan had already fused with her soul. She could clearly sense that the glowing flame fan was transmitting some kind of excitement to her. This was the glowing flame fan, which was restored using the heart's blood and heartbone. The glowing flame fan in her palm, the touch and weight was no different from the past. But it was obviously more exquisite. Chapter 1288. For example, there was a dagger hidden in the handle of the fan. Moreover, on every support of the glowing flame fan, there were all kinds of hidden weapons. He had also obtained 10 wintry silver threads. Compared to before, its lethality was much greater, and it was much more convenient to use. Mistress, where did you learn how to design weapons? Too powerful. Can I ask you to help me draw weapons in the future? Tang Beiyuan's eyes sparkled as she looked hopefully at Yiqing Luo. Although it took a lot of effort to repair the glowing flame fan, it was still not enough. But to be able to restore the glower flame fan, and according to Yiqing Luo's request, adding so many bold hidden weapons, he was filled with pride. As a blacksmith, she was well versed in the design of weapons. Yiqing Luo's request. When the glower flame fan was completed, she was shocked. It's my honor to be able to serve the #1 armament master. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she tried out the glower flame fan in her hands. Tang Beiyuan cheered in excitement. At this moment, she finally looked like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. We've gotten the weapons, let's hurry back to the old mansion. Everyone is still waiting for us there. Yiqing Luo kept the glower flame fan and looked up at Dmo Xian. Under the bright candlelight, Yiqing Luo's pale face was reflected. Dmo Xian frowned. Let's rest for the night and continue our journey tomorrow. You've just extracted your heartbone. Even if you want to recover quickly, you'll need to rest for 5 or 6 days. I'm fine. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her little hand grabbed his lapel as she laughed lightly. Aren't you still by my side? Those children have taken the soul-restoring pill, so they must be in extreme pain right now. At least at this time, I want to be by their side. When she mentioned those brothers in the world group, Yiqing Luo's expression became extremely gentle. There was a hint of gentleness in her eyes. Don't they always say that I'm their hope? I think they wouldn't feel so bad if I were there. If it wasn't for the glowing flame fan, she would have rushed back to the old mansion after the competition to check on the injuries of the youths. Now that the gourd flame fan had been repaired, she was not willing to stay in the West Lawn Plaza for even a moment longer. You, Dmo Xian sighed softly as he shook his head helplessly. This was also why he was more and more attracted to Lil Luor. He seemed cold and heartless, and his methods were ruthless. At such a young age, he wouldn't even bat an eyelid when killing someone. But she cherished the people she cared about, and the people she wanted to protect with all her heart. All right, I'll accompany you back. Dmo Xian placed his palm on Yiqing Luo's head. Lord Overlord. Tang Beiyuan's expression congealed as she hurriedly called out to Dmo Xian. The remaining words were at the tip of his tongue, but she was stopped by Dmo Xian's stern gaze. Yiqing Luo acutely sensed something as her vision turned towards Tang Beiyuan, and looked at Dmo Xian. Is there an urgent matter over at the Imperial Palace which requires you to settle? Tang Beiyuan opened her mouth, but in the end, she closed it and looked away. Yiqing Luo suddenly understood. Ah Xian, it's only half a day's journey from here to the old mansion. With Ah Feng accompanying me back, it'll be fine. The Imperial Palace is not a big deal. With you and Li Xian guarding it for me, I can rest assured. Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo's waist as he glanced sideways at Tang Beiyuan. Beiyuan, Xiaoling is here too, bring her back. Tang Beiyuan's footsteps halted as she nodded slightly. Yes, Overlord. Chapter 1289. Dmo Xian's eyelids drooped down as his peach blossom eyes reflected her face. His lips curled upwards, and everything in the world seemed to have lost its color. Yiqing Luo's breathing stopped as her heartbeat sped up. He leaned over and pressed his lips against her ear. His deep magnetic voice lingered beside her ear. No matter how important the imperial palace's matters are, it's not as important as you. Just a few simple words, but it seemed to be something that touched Yiqing Luo's heart fiercely. Her cheeks were flushed red. The arms around his neck also tightened at this moment. Her blushing face was plastered on his shoulder as she spoke in a low and extremely soft voice. Xian, I like you. She wanted to tell this feeling to Dmo Xian. This man had always placed her in the most important position in his heart. To her, Dmo Xian was also the most important person to her. She liked Dmo Xian. Very much, very much. The man who was hugging her stiffened, as though he was stunned by Yiqing Luo's sudden confession. That long eyelashes fluttered unnaturally. His fair skin was obviously tainted with a touch of redness. Yiqing Luo seemed to have discovered a new continent as her eyes widened as she started giggling. Xian, are you shy? Yiqing Luo's eyes curved as she smiled. She didn't expect her confession to be able to see such an expression from Dmo Xian. As the head of a formidable hidden family in the 21st century, every time she was teased by Dmo Xian until her face turned red, hovering between life and death. This was the first time she saw Dmo Xian's shy look. Decided. In the future when there's nothing to do, she would say some sweet nothings. At the very least, he had to return the favor to her for flirting with him. How could she be the only one who was shy? Shut up. Dmo Xian turned his face away, as he forcefully pushed Yiqing Luo's head into his arms. His footsteps quickened. Yiqing Luo refused to let him off. Xian, your ears are all red. You like me that much? Dmo Xian looked embarrassed. He pretended to glare fiercely at the girl in his arms, and the corners of his mouth twitched indifferently. Soon after, he bent down and fiercely kissed those pink lips that were still chattering away. Everything in the surroundings was quiet. Looking at Dmo Xian's departing back, Tang Beiyuan was unable to retract her gaze for a long time. Just now, Dizun was really shy. She had never seen Dizun like this. That expression, that childish behavior. There was not a trace of the arrogance that he had in the past. He was just an ordinary, pure, ordinary man. The overlord had truly fallen in love with Yiqing Luo. It was only by Yiqing Luo's side that the overlord seemed like a real person. A person of flesh and blood. A person of joy and sorrow. No matter how important the Arch Palace is, it's not as important as you. These words kept lingering in his mind. She could not help but laugh softly. However, deep in his eyes, there was a strong sense of loneliness. If this sentence, her fiancé was willing to say to her, how good would that be? Unfortunately, she was afraid that she would never be able to hear these words again in this lifetime. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were riding on Little Nine as they rushed back to the old mansion. Little Nine's speed was extremely fast, and the distance was reduced by half. In less than 4 hours, the two of them had already reached Three Springs City. In order not to attract too much attention, the two of them changed to walking as it was not far from Three Springs City. At this moment it was just daybreak. The roadside was already crowded with people, and it was extremely lively. Have you heard? Yesterday there was a huge fire, which directly burnt that old mansion in the west completely. Chapter 1290. Right. It's that the World Mercenary Group's old mansion. Wasn't it the mercenary group which was surrounded by the Yuchi family previously? Mercenary group. They must have offended the enemy, and last night the enemy specially came to seek revenge. That's called burning thoroughly. The surrounding houses are not affected at all. Apparently they are targeting the World Mercenary Group. If it wasn't for the fact that we saw the fire when we were making night watch this morning, I'm afraid we wouldn't know about this matter till now. The surrounding commoners were talking about the gossip which had spread throughout the entire Three Springs City early in the morning. Yiqing Luo originally wasn't interested in these gossips, but indistinctly, she heard everyone discussing about burning the World Group enemy. She then diverted her attention to listen. After she understood what the commoners were talking about, her face instantly turned pale like a piece of paper. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's robe tightly. Dmo Xian's expression was grave as he held her little hand tightly. Let's go back and take a look first. The two of them increased their speed as they sped towards the direction of the old mansion. Before they even got close to the old mansion, Yiqing Luo smelt a thick smell of smoke. There were several commoners surrounding them as they pointed and gossiped. Yiqing Luo's expression turned paler by the minute. She let go of Dmo Xian's arm, and her figure flashed as she speedily shifted to the entrance of the old mansion. There were several bailiffs from the surrounding, as they carried out one corpse after another from the old mansion. Yiqing Luo knocked into one of the bailiffs, and the stretcher, which she was carrying, instantly slipped out of her hands. The corpse on the stretcher fell onto the ground. That corpse was already burnt as it gave off an extremely pungent smell. The bailiffs were sent here early in the morning to carry the corpse as he raised his head and started scolding. Who dares to disturb the official's work? Don't you want your life? When his gaze met Yiqing Luo, the bailiff's expression changed. Three Springs Sect's young matriarch. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the bailiffs as she stared straight at that pitch-black corpse. How many people are dead? Young matriarch, my condolences. Don't worry. The officials will definitely find the murderer and take revenge for the World Mercenary Group. The bailiff stuttered. In the entire Three Springs city, there wasn't anyone who didn't know Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was the World Group's vice group leader, and this was something which everyone knew. Yiqing Luo's face turned gloomy as she raised her hand to grab the bailiff's collar. I'm asking you, how many people have died? The runner's legs went soft. Currently, the government has carried out more than 30 corpses. All of them have been burned beyond recognition and cannot be identified. There are more than 100 corpses in the backyard. The bailiff at the side continued. Young sect master, someone must be seeking revenge. There are obvious signs of a fight in the backyard. Please think carefully and see if you've made enemies with anyone recently. Yiqing Luo turned a deaf ear to their words. His head was buzzing, and he felt like he was about to explode. She stared at the pitch-black corpse on the ground, breathing heavily. Clenching her fists tightly, she quickly strode into the old house. Luo, calm down. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand and grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. Her little hands were cold and trembling. To be precise, Yiqing Luo's body was trembling nonstop. Even though she was nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, her body was still trembling. A peerless face was extremely pale. Her eyes were sparkling with a glint of crystal-clear tears. As she looked at Dmo Xian's face with a vacant look. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's breathing tightened. Accompany me. Accompany me in, I want to confirm. No one could recognize those youngsters' corpses. But she recognized them. The corpses which were lying on the ground were not from the World Group. Over 100 corpses in the backyard. It might not be the World Group's youngsters. Chapter 1291. Dmo Xian comforted her by kissing her forehead. Don't worry, they will be fine. The trembling young lady in his arms didn't say a word. The little hand that was holding onto his shirt curled up a little more. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes squinted slightly as he tightened his arms around her. He lowered his head and pressed his lips against her ear. The young lady's faint fragrance entered his nostrils. His eyes flickered slightly, as he suppressed the emotions that he shouldn't be feeling at this moment. He said in a gentle voice, You're a little pervert, and the people you've trained are naturally perverts as well. If they can't even avoid this little danger, how can they stand by your side and fight alongside you? Yiqing Luo was stunned. The warm breath on her earlobe kept brushing against her skin. Her long curly lashes blinked, and when she looked at Dmo Xian again, there was finally some spirit in her eyes. Dmo Xian's slender fingers pinched her nose. Believe in them. Believe in the companions who can stand side by side with you. His deep magnetic voice made Yiqing Luo's body softened. Her heart seemed to be wrapped and covered by a warm current. That's right. She should believe in the brothers whom she had her eyes on. She should believe in her own companions. They were no longer the youngsters who were labeled as trash in the past. They already had enough power to stand by her side, companions who could stand side by side with her. Believe in them, just like how they believed in her. Believe in them. Yiqing Luo's nervousness and panic, at this moment, vanished into thin air. Her lips curled into a smile as she nodded vigorously. Thank you, Xian. Dmo Xian rubbed her head, held her little hand, and pulled her directly to the old mansion, which had long been destroyed by the fire. The crowd of commoners and the bailiffs who were watching the show behind them were stunned. That handsome man who looked like a god descended, could it be the legendary overlord? That otherworldly temperament, that flawless handsome face, that awe-inspiring majesty which made one inexplicably submit to him. He emitted a strong demeanor of a monarch. Other than the overlord, there was. Who? Such a man was so intimate with Yiqing Luo? Like a husband and wife, intimately hugging each other, whispering in a warm voice. So, the young lord of the Three Springs sect family really had such a relationship with the overlord. The common people talked about it enthusiastically, spreading the news from 1 to 10, 10 to 100 however. The two of them who had entered the old mansion were unaware of this matter. Not a single part of the old house was left unscathed. The air was also filled with a pungent smell that made one's stomach churn. From time to time, the blackened wood could no longer support its weight, and fell to the ground, emitting an ear-piercing sound. Yiqing Luo walked quickly towards the backyard. As soon as he arrived at the backyard, he saw the burnt corpses all over the place. It was clear that a great battle had just taken place. Sensing carefully, he could still vaguely sense a faint trace of profound energy remaining in the air. Yiqing Luo looked around for a while, and slowly closed her eyes. A burning sensation gradually welled up in his chest. This was the strength of her profound jade heart. She could sense the profound rank of a profound practitioner that was higher than hers. He could distinguish the grade of other profound practitioners' profound heart jades. Previously, after her profound jade heart was dug out by Yiqing Ling and the people from the dark forces, she was still able to rely on the remnant energy of the profound jade heart stored in her heart to sense it. Now that the profound jade heart had returned to her body, this ability of hers was getting stronger and stronger. Probing for a moment, she indeed sensed the remnant profound energy in the surroundings. It's the dark forces? Yiqing Luo's brows creased, vaguely sensing the profound yin qi which came from the dark forces. This aura was not obvious. Chapter 1292. Dark Forces. Dmo Xian's handsome brows creased slightly as he looked at Yiqing Luo. Are you sure? Logically speaking, under the harassment of the Tharch Palace, the Dark Forces would definitely not have the time to attack these youngsters from the World Mercenary Group. To the Dark Forces, as long as Yiqing Luo wasn't around, they could casually send out any cultivator, and they would be able to squash these youngsters to death like ants. The Dark Forces' target was only Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade, and Yiqing Luo only. How could they possibly ambush the world group at this critical juncture? Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment and slowly shook her head. I'm not too sure. The profound yin qi's response is very weak. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes again, preparing to magnify her perception. Suddenly, she felt a dull pain in her chest, causing her face to pale. Her fair little hand pressed against her chest, her eyebrows knitted tightly, her breathing heavy. Don't force yourself. Dmo Xian noticed the change in her expression, and grabbed her hand which was placed on her chest. It hasn't been long since the extraction of the heart bone. Your body isn't suitable to use profound energy. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, and didn't persist any further. Even if he could sense the faint mysterious yin qi, it would be useless whether it was from the dark forces or not. Right now, the most important thing was to find his brothers, so that he could know what had happened last night. The two of them stood in the middle of a group of corpses, their gazes searching through the charred corpses. His heart, which was hanging in the air, gradually calmed down. There were no corpses here. Not a single one. This meant that her brothers were still alive. Lil Luo, or look over there. Dmo Xian pointed towards the direction of the independent courtyard. Look at the ground. Yiqing Luo followed the direction of Diamoxian's finger. Countless messy footprints could be seen on the charred ground. Bloody footprints led in the direction of the independent courtyard. Yiqing Luo and Diamoxian exchanged glances, and both of them rushed towards the independent courtyard at the same time. Following the clear footprints on the charred ground, he arrived at Long Yunjian's courtyard. The two of them walked in, and their footprints finally stopped at the door of Long Yunjian's bedroom. The bedroom had already been burnt black, and almost everything had been burnt down. The ground was covered with piles of charred wood, scattered all over the place. Diamoxian pulled Yiqing Luo's wrist and shoved her behind his back. Soon after, the wind from his palm stirred, and a hurricane blew up all the wood shavings in the room. Under the layers of wood chips, a square hole was revealed near the corner of the wall. Was that a secret passage? Long Yunjian's room actually had a secret passage. Is this another secret tunnel that the old man holy thief built when he had nothing better to do? In other words, there was a high possibility that the world group members had left through this secret passage? After the hurricane dissipated, Yiqing Luo's figure flashed as she stood in front of the cave entrance. He reached out and touched something near the entrance of the cave. With a caw sound, the entire corner of the wall collapsed, revealing a hole that could fit a person. It was indeed a secret passage. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone brightly as she pulled Diamoxian's hand and was about to rush into the secret passage. Diamoxian held her little hand tightly and pulled her behind him. Only then did he take the lead and walk into the secret passage. It was just a casual action, but it made Yiqing Luo's lips curl into a sweet smile. The two of them, one in front and one behind, entered the secret passage. This secret passage wasn't considered spacious, and it was extremely simple. Chapter 1293. This secret passage was about 10 meters long. When the two of them walked out of the secret passage, they discovered that outside the secret passage was an abandoned forest behind the old house that had not been taken care of for a long time. As the commoners said, this fire only destroyed the entire old house. The houses near the old house and the abandoned forest were not affected at all. Perhaps when the other party burned down the old residence, they had specially set up a barrier to isolate the outside world. On the ground, there were countless messy bloody footprints. It was especially eye-catching on the withered leaves. Yiqing Luo took a look at the direction of those footprints. It was the direction to the abandoned forest. Just as she was about to follow the footprints, her ears twitched and her expression froze. Who is it? At the same time, Diamoxian tightened his grip around her waist. A majestic, profound energy surged out from his body, sweeping up the fallen leaves on the ground. A tall figure walked out of the forest, his blue robe fluttering in the wind. When she met that pair of azure blue eyes, Yiqing Luo retracted the vigilance in her eyes as she speedily went up. "Ah Jean, are the brothers all right?" Long Yunjian shook his head lightly. "Everyone is safe." Yiqing Luo heaved a long sigh of relief and patted her chest. "It's good that you're all right. It's good that you're all right. It's all thanks to the help of the Emperor Palace's disciples sent by His Majesty. They escorted us all the way to safety." Long Yunjian cupped his hands together as he bowed towards Diamoxian. "Lord Overlord, I represent all the brothers to thank Lord Overlord for lending a helping hand." His tone was extremely sincere. This was his heartfelt gratitude. Last night, if it wasn't for the Emperor Palace's disciples, he wouldn't have been able to ensure the safety of all his brothers. "Your little Luoer's brothers. This lord can't bear to see little Luoer upset. There's no need to thank me." Diamoxian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly as he spoke the truth. It was also a declaration to Long Yunjian. Only he could protect this woman. Long Yunjian's eyelids drooped down as he tried his best to control himself, not looking at the intimacy between Diamoxian and Yiqing Luo. "Ajan, are you hurt?" Yiqing Luo could smell the faint scent of blood in the air. It floated over from Long Yunjian's direction. She reached out, grabbed Long Yunjian's wrist, and felt his pulse. Long Yunjian retracted his hand in a panic. "I'm fine. Are you all right?" Yiqing Luo's expression turned chilly, as her earlier joyous mood that her brothers were safe and sound instantly congealed. She forcefully grabbed Long Yunjan's arm and sneered. Weak aura, excessive blood loss, you call this fine? Long Yunjan's thin lips trembled. He lowered his head and did not reply. Yiqing Luo then discovered that Long Yunjan's frail body was actually trembling slightly. His injuries, it was definitely not light. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression turning colder and colder, Long Yunjan's brows creased slightly as he explained in an extremely unnatural manner. The ghost doctor has already personally bandaged my wounds, and I've also eaten the pills that the ghost doctor personally refined. I've also obtained the ghost doctor's permission to come here to pick you up. The ghost doctor is here too? He was a person who was afraid of trouble, and would rather spend all his time refining pills and researching pills. He actually became a doctor, and helped these youths bandage their wounds? Perhaps it must be because of her. Her ghost doctor master. Yiqing Luo sighed helplessly. It seemed that she owed more and more favors. Yiqing Luo released Long Yunjan's wrist. Where are all of you now? Are you safe? At the mention of this topic, a strange expression appeared on Long Yunjan's face, which had always been calm. Chapter 1294. By the time Yiqing Luo followed Long Yunjan to the World Group's temporary residence, she finally understood why Long Yunjan's expression was so strange. The World Group's old residence was at the west side of Three Springs City, and the place where they were temporarily staying was at the east side of Three Springs City. The people who stayed at the east side were either rich or respectable. This huge mansion was a luxurious mansion, extremely luxurious. After they stepped into the mansion, Yiqing Luo sensed that something was amiss. This huge mansion, no matter if it was the furnishings or the style, it was almost the same as the old mansion which Yan Xiaoyi had bought. Even that pond in the garden was exactly the same. If it wasn't for the fact that she had seen it with her own eyes earlier, the old mansion had been burnt to ashes. She even suspected if she had walked into the previous old mansion. There weren't many people in the entire huge mansion. It was until Long Yunjan led them to the rear courtyard when Yiqing Luo faintly heard someone talking. She saw 10 over young men dressed as manservants bustling about. Some were carrying medicinal soup, walking back and forth. Some were carrying water basins, walking back and forth. There were 10 over maids who were in the same state. Zhao Bo and the rest were among them, interacting with those manservants, while busying themselves with the matters on hand. Captain Long, you're back. Suddenly, a clear voice was heard from one of the rooms. A man dressed in a dark red woven gold robe, with brown auspicious clouds rolling around him, walked out from the room. The man's black hair was coiled up, secured by a purple jade crown neat and tidy. His lips carried an intimate smile, as though he was a graceful gentleman, as gentle as jade. From the looks of it, this man's age wasn't old, roughly around 21 or 22 years old. Long Yunjan's expression congealed as he nodded towards that man. Young Master Shi. Others might not be able to detect the change in Long Yunjan's expression, but how would Yiqing Luo, who understood Long Yunjan, not notice it? She sized up the seemingly gentle man in front of her in confusion, secretly guessing his identity. That man noticed Yiqing Luo's gaze, as he gave her a warm and courteous smile. I believe this must be the extraordinary lady which Captain Long mentioned. Young sect master Yiqing Luo? Seeing is believing. Indeed, you're devastatingly beautiful. His tone was just right. Anyone who heard it would not feel the slightest bit disgusted. It made people feel that he was praising her sincerely, without any blasphemy. I am Shi Shanglan from the Shi clan. The man introduced himself. Yiqing Luo had never heard of this person's name, and there wasn't any information about him in her mind. However, she still maintained an elegant smile on her face. Young Master Shi. This is. Shi Shanglan looked at Dmo Xian, who was standing beside Yiqing Luo. This man's presence was too strong, especially when he was praising Yiqing Luo. This man's gaze seemed as though he wanted to dismember him. Yiqing Luo held onto Dmo Xian's arm, smiled and didn't answer. But this action also represented the answer to everything. Qing Luo. Earlier when Shi Shanglan walked out from the room, Xiao Jin's voice was heard. In the next instant, Xiao Jin walked out of the house. He was in a sorry state, and his uniform was in tatters. His long hair was disheveled and scattered over his shoulders, and there was a patch of greenish-black under his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with exhaustion, and when he saw Yiqing Luo, he forced out a smile. "You're finally back." Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she looked at the open door. "No need to guess, that must be Yin Xiaoyi's room." Xiao Jin's gaze paused on Shi Shanglan for a moment. Chapter 1295. No need. Yiqing Luo wasn't in the mood to rest. What exactly happened? Why was the old house burned down? Xiao Jin's expression sank slightly, and he was just about to speak. He glanced at Shi Shanglan out of the corner of his eye, and stopped what he was about to say. "The ghost doctor and god thief are waiting for you. Let's go over first." Shi Shanglan gave a gentle smile knowingly. "I'll go buy some more herbs. You guys can chat first." Yiqing Luo nodded her head slightly as she expressed her gratitude in a mild voice. This man, who looked as gentle as jade, seemed to be graceful and polite, and his every movement was extremely elegant. But maybe it was because Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin's attitude towards him wasn't that warm, and there was a trace of distance. Yiqing Luo disliked the house and its crow, so she didn't have any good impression of Shi Shanglan. After Shi Shanglan left, Xiao Jin led the way at the front. He briefly explained the fire that had happened last night. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her slender brows creased slightly as she squeezed out a few words between her teeth. "Yiqing Qian. It's her again." Yiqing Qian actually dared to come out and create trouble. At this critical juncture, he was still unwilling to let the world group off. Other than Yiqing Qian, who hated her to the core, there was no one else. Did he really think that he would be invincible, just because he held on to the leopard saint technique's thigh? Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with an evil cold intent. "Little Luoer, don't be rash." Dmo Xian's long arm wrapped around her slender waist. He did not like to see such an expression on her face. "I won't be impulsive." Yiqing Luo sneered. Her little hand covered the hand on her waist. "I was just thinking. If I see Yiqing Qian next time, I will not hold back and tear her into pieces." She would not impulsively seek revenge on Yiqing Qian now. Yiqing Qian's backing was the Dark Forces, Wolf Saint's forces. The Brothers of the World Group had yet to recover from their injuries. Furthermore, because she was repairing the glowing flame fan, her heart bone and heart blood had been extracted, and the abnormalities in her body had yet to dissipate. She was impulsive. He was bound to suffer. But for this revenge, she would definitely make Yiqing Qian pay a painful price. She wanted Yiqing Qian to suffer a fate worse than death. The ruthless glint in his eyes was like a sharp blade. The atmosphere instantly froze. Xiao Jin suddenly stopped in his tracks as he turned around to look at Dmo Xian. Today, the world group was able to escape by a fluke, all thanks to the Imperial Palace's disciples' help. His words broke the strange and cold atmosphere at this moment. The iciness in Yiqing Luo's eyes dissipated as she raised her eyes to look at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin sincerely bowed towards Dmo Xian. "Lord Overlord has lent a helping hand today. If there's any need for me in future, I will definitely risk my life to help you." It could be said that it was the lives of all the brothers in the world group. He was saved by a disciple of the Emperor Palace. The Imperial Palace's disciples protecting them secretly was under Dmo Xian's instructions. No matter if Dmo Xian's action was to protect them, or for Yiqing Luo, it was an indisputable fact that the Emperor Palace had saved the world group. Dmo Xian didn't stand on ceremony, as he held a smile that didn't look like a smile, his brows raised slightly. "There will definitely be a place where I can use you." After walking down 2 long corridors, they arrived at the direction of the medicine refining room. Ghost Doctor was refining medicinal pills while God Thief was chewing on a piece of straw in boredom, looking around the surroundings. On seeing Yiqing Luo entering, God Thief's face was filled with joy. "Yiqing Luo, you're finally back." "Master Ghost Doctor," Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on Ghost Doctor and God Thief for some time, as she hesitated to speak. Chapter 1296. Ever since the last time at God Thief's courtyard, she had seen the both of them. Yiqing Luo felt that they definitely knew each other previously. The ghost doctor's appearance here was mostly because of God Thief. Yiqing Luo had a strange feeling. It seemed like Ghost Doctor took her in as his disciple. She met God Thief in Death God Castle and brought him out. Everything. It was fated in the unseen world. Or intentional? Yiqing Luo didn't know why she would have such a thought. Only that things happened one after another. The dark forces kept on harassing and attacking her. The more Yiqing Luo felt, the more she felt that everything seemed to be deliberate. Of course, she didn't doubt God Thief and Ghost Doctor's sincerity towards her. She believed that Ghost Doctor and God Thief really treated her like a girl and doted on her. The smile on God Thief's face froze as he coughed dryly. This isn't important. The important thing is, you already know about the old mansion's fire last night, right? Seeing that God Thief had no intention to tell her, Yiqing Luo didn't continue to ask. She believed that one day, God Thief would tell her about his matter. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as her slender brows creased slightly, going along with God Thief as she changed the topic. Our brothers traveled through the night and took different routes back to the old residence. Yet they were detected by the dark forces. This is just too strange. To everyone, Devil Class was going to challenge the Overseer on the second day. No matter what, they couldn't possibly leave the West Lawn Square on the night of the challenge. Yiqing Luo had specially asked the brothers to split into different routes to leave the West Lawn Square. Most importantly, other than themselves, no one else knew that Devil Class's students had taken the spirit-returning pill. How could the dark forces be so coincidental? Choosing today to set fire to the old mansion? Resolutely setting fire, and even sent 200 over dark forces to assassinate them. Apparently they were certain that they were in the old mansion. Moreover, they clearly knew that they didn't have any combat ability, and wanted to burn them alive. The old mansion was guarded by God Thief. If anyone investigated the matters in the old mansion, God Thief would definitely know about it immediately. Which means, the dark forces know about our whereabouts. Xiao Jin frowned. Be careful during this period. Pay attention to whether there are any suspicious people around you. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept the surroundings as she suppressed her voice. If the dark forces are really clear of our whereabouts and current situation, then staying here might implicate that young Master Shi. When Xiao Jin and Long Yunjian heard this, the expressions on their faces changed slightly. Xiao Jin's brows furrowed even more tightly as his face darkened. This young Master Shi still brought us to his house, even though he knew that we had enmity with our enemies. I don't believe that he's just being kind. It wasn't that Yiqing Luo didn't believe that there were kind-hearted people in this world. But the word kind heart was really not related to Shi Shanglan. Even though Shi Shanglan appeared to be extremely gentle and refined. However, his pair of jade-like gentle eyes had already revealed his true inner thoughts. Shi Shanglan was definitely plotting something. But at this moment, Shi Shanglan brought them into the house and sent men over to coordinate with the world group members to take care of those who were still unconscious. He had to return this favor. It was better to have a plan. At least it was easier to return the favor. A debt of gratitude was the hardest to repay. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.